welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. If the voice sounds a little bit different, well, you can thank my annoying moment of the week from last week. When you're on a plane or you're in public or you're around people and you don't feel good, cover your face. Cover your face, cough inside of a napkin, but don't try to get other people sick around you if you don't feel good. And it's just common human decency and courtesy. So if the pipes sound a little bit different, if I sound like I'm some raspy singer at some saloon somewhere, well, you know why. So with that being said, inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is here with you, and I have a fantastic group of guests that are coming up here as we are in the first full week of 2025 here in January. We have Rob Long coming up first, Syracuse punter alum, who will be joining me to speak on Syracuse's 2024-25 season. Fran Brown, his life, his journey, and so much more. Then we'll jump into hour number 2 inside of the Bearcat Breakroom, where we have an all-new special featuring 2 amazing guests from Binghamton Bearcats Wrestling in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Binghamton University Bearcats, and that is head coach Kyle Borshoff and student-athlete Brevin Cassella, who will be joining us. Brevin hailing from Clinton, Massachusetts. So we have that coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And then we'll go back to Syracuse football with another alum, that being Syracuse tight end alum Pat Davis. He'll be speaking with me about his thoughts on the 2024-25 season, as well as getting ranked this season. We'll talk about Fran Brown, and he'll give some advice to a fellow tight end, Aronde Gadsden II, who's going to the NFL draft. And with Pat, we will do the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So with that being said, and without further ado, I welcome my first guest of the day, that being Mr. Rob Long. And Rob, I don't know, I don't know who does your studio, your office, your digs, but it looks like that looks like a coach's office. So I have 2 questions: who put this all together? Number 1, and number 2. Since I have, as you can see behind me here, we have some jerseys that have gone up. So I have 2 questions. Who did your studio? And am I allowed to have something Rob Long related to put in my studio?
So I got to give credit to my mom. She's an interior designer. She did the inside of my office. This was a COVID era project that ended up being way more useful, I guess, than
Right.
I had initially expected it to be.
Yeah.
But so that's the first part. And second part, absolutely, I can get you something that Rob Long from Syracuse area that you can include in the background there.
Nice. Yeah. Because, Rob, and you and I mean, I know it's been a minute since you and I have talked here on the show, but you've always been good to me, always just been answered text messages right back, keep in touch and everything. So before we get started with anything, I want to say thank you, because you know how important it is for me to have Syracuse Orange players, past, present, and future, on the broadcast, and to talk with you about the connection to Syracuse and the meaning of it. It helps the little kid in me live a dream here. I grew up watching Syracuse football, had a Syracuse sweatshirt on when I was 1, and there's a picture of it to prove it. So I just want to say thank you to people like yourself who take the time that you take and do what you do and answer a message, come on to a show. You've always been kind, and you've always been compassionate and willing to spend time. So I think that needs to be put in the spotlight, and I want to say thank you for that.
I appreciate it, Dan. Always happy to help. I know you've been at this for quite some time, and I'm glad to see you still going with it.
Yeah, 21-year anniversary this past November.
Oh,
So
congratulations. That's
thank,
awesome.
thank you, sir. 21 years of doing this thing, and over 12 of doing it on my own and running my own company. So feel very blessed and very fortunate. I always love talking about life after football to show football players and student athletes that you got to keep going after you're done with the cleats. So what are you up to now, and what's Rob Long's current chapter?
Yeah, so for probably about the last 8 years, been working with uplifting athletes, and something that goes back to my playing days. Really, after I was done, Sam Rogers started the Syracuse chapter of uplifting athletes in my honor, and to this day is one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. And so, being able to be a part of the Uplifting Athletes organization, continue to help it grow, is something that I'm incredibly proud of, and we've been able to have an incredible impact as an organization by funding research for people impacted by rare diseases,
Yeah.
and also to provide opportunities for families dealing with a rare diagnosis to connect with our network of athletes and athletic organizations through our Uplifting Experiences program. So it's been a tremendous honor for me, something that I love that I get to do this every single day. It's something that I'm deeply passionate about, given my connection to sports, and also somebody that had been diagnosed with a rare brain cancer. And so
Yeah.
being able to kind of use my story a little bit, be able to connect with other people like myself, other families like ours, and being able to give back a little bit is something that I really feel grateful for.
Yeah, and like you said, uplifting athletes. I mean, that's something that I know about. I mean, it's how the student athletes at Syracuse can get involved in the community as well. Just what that means to you. I mean, that connection
Yeah.
that you have with Sam Rogers, starting at who's a fellow alum and a fellow person in the special teams world at Syracuse as well, like yourself. But doing that in your honor and then seeing that Syracuse student athletes to this day can help the community through uplifting athletes.
It's incredible. Really awesome to see it kind of just continue on, and the impact that it's made, having these student athletes be able to carry on that legacy that Sam started is something that's really special. And so I think for me, the big thing is just uh, just being grateful that I'm here to be a part of this organization. I'm here to be a part of the Syracuse community, the football community, and to play a small role in that is something that's incredible. It started with something that was pretty awful, but
Yeah.
uh, has turned into something that's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, and then like you said, starting with something that was pretty awful and turned into something beautiful. I mean, you can reflect on this many years later. How did you navigate through all of this? Mental health, we talk about this now with student
Yeah,
athletes that it's important. Back when I was going through school, back when I was playing basketball, there was no mental health conversation.
yeah,
There was very little avenues to go to. It was considered taboo. It was considered weak if you needed help in mental health or emotional health or spiritual health, whatever it may be.
yeah.
So to see the emphasis on it now, how did you get through it then when there wasn't an emphasis on having different services for student athletes to deal with something, especially something so rare in your case?
Yeah. I had an incredible support system. The people at the university, my teammates, my family, were how I got through all of that. So
Yeah.
they're the ones I owe all that credit to. Personally, it's just taking things one day at a time, and trying not to get too far ahead of yourself. Not focus on what has happened, or what might happen, but trying to be present in the moment, and that is something that is an ongoing struggle for most people, including myself. But
Yeah.
when you can figure that out, that is something that is really helpful to just stringing some good days together. When you want to just stay present, stay in that moment, and that was a big piece of getting through all of it.
Yeah. And to get to this point today and to help other people, do you have a story or two that kind of sticks out to you of being a part of uplifting athletes and hearing from other families and hearing from other, athletes that are going through different things and whatnot? Do you have something that kind of stays with you of, thank God I went through what I went through because now I can help this person? Because, people see things and say, this is a burden. God, why do you hate me? Why is this happening to me? Or you can look back on it and say, thank God it happened to me because now I can help this kid. Now I can help this family. Do you have a family that stays with you in the top of your mind?
Yeah, I mean there's quite a few. I think by and large I've been able to look at what I've been through as more of a blessing than it is anything else. And time has proven that to be true. Obviously, when it happens, you're not thinking of, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It actually feels quite the opposite. But
Yeah.
um, having the benefit of hindsight, looking back, the impact that we've had, just even from an organizational standpoint, being able to fund over $1 million in research grants for the next generation of rare disease researchers is something that will continue on, for a very long time as we continue that program. Um, there's so many families. We've actually served over 1,200 individuals through the Uplifting Experiences program,
Yeah.
and each story is so unique. But there's uh, so many of them that you'll write and feel I guess the need to kind of share their personal experiences, with me and our organization, and we're incredibly, blessed to hear that feedback. And I think, all of it, all the good feedback that we get from these families is, um, just another thing that I think about every single day, and just that it's an opportunity for us to make the world a better place, and take the bad things that happen to us, and turn them into good. I've had so many, people, athletes, non-athletes, reach out to me about, their diagnosis being the same as mine. And I know that when I was going through this, the best thing for me was to hear somebody had gone through it and was doing well.
Yeah.
And so, being able to be that person for other people is incredibly humbling. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But there's been countless families that have come through that, it's been a blessing.
Here speaking with Rob Long on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We're here on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe. And as we're here this morning with Rob, the number 44 is so well known in Syracuse, but I think at this point it's fair to say, and this is in my opinion, Syracuse has had some really good punters, and in recent history, Syracuse has struggled with punting. And it's funny to me because the fans, for years at Syracuse, punter comes out onto the field, they go get a burger, they go get a soda, they go get a hot dog because they know that they got it. They know you guys are
Yeah.
going to take care of business. It was like normal thing, you right? And when special teams works, nobody says anything. When it doesn't work, there's a complaint. But there was this long history of guy. I mean, Riley Dixon and yourself and Sterling Hoffrichter and so on and so forth. The guys just doing what they need to do to get the job done. So, do you think at some point in Syracuse history, and I don't care if people laugh at me for saying this, we need to put 47 up in the rafters because you've helped the community. We talk about service to the community. We talk about scholarship. We talk about leadership. We talk about integrity. Shouldn't 47 be up there? And if it's not, I just want to let you know you might come in. I'll tell you the night before that I'm going to go ahead and hang it up there myself. And in case I get arrested, I'm going to let you know when it's there so you can take a picture.
Thank you. Man, I don't think so. It'd be an incredible honor, but the legend of 44 and the other retired jerseys, and Donovan McNabb and Dwight Freeney and Marvin Harrison, those guys are legends that have established themselves, both in college and the NFL. But being a part of the Syracuse community is something that is incredibly special to me. It means the world to me. It's a home away from home. I have so many people that have over the years given so much support, their homes, meals, whatever, to me, and it's something I'll always be grateful for. It's an unbelievable community and university football program. It's something that'll be a part of me and until I die.
And the reason why I bring it up is one, there's so much lack of love for special teams players. And secondly, it's because of the fact that, I think that it should be put on display and appreciated of what you guys do. I mean, special teams commonly, I mean, when do you hear about a punter getting in a Hall of Fame or a kicker getting in a Hall of Fame? Maybe we'll see it with Justin Tucker from the Baltimore Ravens,
Yeah.
guys like that. But I mean, people have to understand that when you went through your diagnosis and whatnot, you were working out with the NFL and you had opportunities there. So really, all jokes aside, it's me saying thank you for the work you've done. Thank you for helping people to know that in the dome they could go to the bathroom and not have to worry about when the ball is getting punted away. And the fact that, I mean, you were electric and you were consistent. And I think that needs to be said more about the punters in the world and the special teams players in the world of the consistency, because you declare where your team is going to be. I mean, special teams decides where are you going to play defense from, where are you going to play offense from, and it's not talked about enough here on the show. It is, but I just wanted to say thank you and make sure that people knew that and that they understand that if I got arrested, why. So,
No, I appreciate it, man. It's such an important facet of the game that if you have great special teams, it can really be a huge advantage. And we see it every weekend, during the fall. You see,
yeah.
we've seen it in the college football playoff with, some of the kickers. You see it with punters across the board. It's one of those things that if you have a good special teams unit, it can be an absolute treasure.
Yeah, and I was just at because I've been covering the college football playoff, and I'll be back on the road for the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic this week for Ohio State and Texas. I was just at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Texas and Arizona State, and both of those teams were missing field goals. Both of those teams prevented themselves at times from winning the game.
Yeah.
So, as much as, you might think like, yeah, they're never going to put a punter up there in Syracuse, it's more to give the information and put it out there and let people know, like, look at what happened in this game.
Yeah.
People look back on this game and go, wow, it was a really close game. But Texas could have been done with that game a couple times. And, their kicker missed 2 field goals down the stretch. So, you look at things like that, and Syracuse fans the last couple of years, whether you know it or not, Rob, they've clamored a little bit. They've been a little frustrated with the punting game and why is this not working, and who's not blocking and this, that, and whatnot. And I just want to remind people that if you had Rob Long, you wouldn't have to worry about it. So just want to let that be known. But getting into this 2024-25 season, Syracuse goes 10-3. They do it for just the third time in over 2 decades. And they did it at a time where it's now the second time that it's happened since 2018 with Eric Dungy and the crew. Team goes 10-3, Fran Brown's first season. Go to a bowl game. I'm at that bowl game. Go out to San Diego, and they handle business in San Diego in Snapdragon Stadium against the Washington State crew. So, your thoughts on this season, this team, and what Fran is doing?
Well, I think coming in, once Fran was hired, there was no question that he could recruit, right? He was a nationally ranked recruiter. He was the top recruiter in the country at Georgia at one point. There was no doubt that he could recruit. I think the big question that remained to be seen was, how did he manage the game? And
Yeah.
I think he answered all of those questions this year. I would struggle to find, I think, anybody that if you told them that we were going to be 10-3, that you know they would have not taken that, or maybe they would have laughed at you. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's a testament to the guys in the locker room and the leadership um, of not only Fran but the coordinators. He's got a great great group of coordinators, coaches, and then what you've seen happen with the quarterback play. Like Kyle's been awesome, and he's a gunslinger. He can throw it. Um, and I think huge credit to Fran to being able to bring Kyle into the program and to give him the tools and resources that he needs to go out and play. And got him the receivers, he got him the stud tight end. And the offensive line did a good job of keeping him upright. And then you have a stud like uh, um, our running back, and
Yeah.
you he's a beast, right? And um, you put those things together, and Fran did an excellent job, managing games, and I think is a huge reason why we had an opportunity. I think we're looking back now at that schedule, going, wow, we're a couple plays away from being in the college football playoff. And I think that's incredible. I don't think that should go, unnoticed, um, or unspoken about how impressive the job Fran did this year,
Yeah.
because it is no easy feat to win, no easy feat to win in the ACC. And I believe I saw a stat where they were at 8-0 against their top, I don't know if it was top 25 opponents or top 45 opponents or bowl eligible opponents, but like the teams that were good, they played well against. And
Yeah.
that's a big thing. You're not just beating the teams that everybody else is beating. You're beating some teams that nobody else is beating, and I think that's really impressive.
Yeah, and there was something to that effect. You talk about the schedule and who they defeated. They defeated Ohio to start the season.
Yeah.
I want to remind people that I believe this Ohio team has had now 3 straight seasons of 10 wins. So the
Yeah.
Ohio Bobcats in the MAC, they were 11-3 this year, and I'm checking myself to make sure I'm right. 11-3 this year. In 2023, they were 10-3, and so that is back to back 10. And then in 2022, they were 10-4. So yeah, so this is a team that has, I am correct, they won at least 10 games in the last 3 seasons. Speaking of the Ohio Bobcats, which is a game that a lot of people just kind of glanced over because it's Ohio, it's not Ohio State, and who cares? And they're in the MAC and this and that.
Yep.
And so they defeat them, a three, 1, 2, 3 in a row, 10-win team. And so that's a big win. They defeat Georgia Tech, who, keep in mind, played spoiler to Miami with Syracuse. Georgia Tech is a team that was in and out of the rankings and was definitely a team that you didn't want to come and play. And keep in mind, this was a team that went up against Georgia when Georgia had Carson back at quarterback and forced them to go to 8 overtimes. Syracuse beat that team. Now, Syracuse lost to Stanford. What I find hilarious about this is no matter what happened, good or bad this season, some people would go, well, if they didn't lose to Stanford. They didn't lose to Stanford by 100. They lost to Stanford by 2. They lost to Stanford 26-24 on a I think it was 4th and 9, 4th and 8, 4th and 9 completion that led to a field goal. But that's something that people circle and kind of lose their minds about, and I don't know why. They beat UNLV when UNLV was undefeated. They did that in overtime. They
Yep.
defeated Virginia Tech in overtime, a team that had done some things this year. Virginia Tech ended up finishing the season with a 6-7 record, but got themselves to a bowl game, and so they were 6-6 at the end of the season. So that was another bowl eligible team. They defeated Miami head to head in the Dome. The last time Miami came to the Dome, exactly 22 years to the day of when they came this past season on Saturday, November 30th, 2024. They had gotten blown out in 2002 when they played them in the Dome. I think it was 49-17. And so they end up beating Miami and Cam Ward and all that. They beat Cal at Cal. Keep in mind, Cal had played spoiler to some things. Cal had themselves a good season. Cal got to a bowl game. Cal gave Miami everything they could handle for Miami to have to come back and win 39-38 on the road in that game. So, and you look back on Syracuse's season, this, people, well, next year it's going to be a tough schedule, and let's see about next year and this and that. The eternal negatives, Rob. And, The positive on my side of it is this year, against many bowl eligible teams in and out of conference, they won these games. And they did not get spoiled, they played the spoil. Now, some people would say, well, Stanford was the thing that spoiled it. It was the third game of the season, mind you. Keep in mind, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. So,
Yeah.
everybody's entitled to have a loss right somewhere. And in the case of Syracuse, to go 10-3, to handle business. And by the way, East Coast, West Coast, historically, East Coast teams don't play well when they have to go on the West Coast in the NFL, let alone college football. Syracuse went 3-0 on the West Coast. They
Yeah.
handled business there, and they beat multiple ranked teams. They beat UNLV, who was ranked. They beat Georgia Tech, who was ranked, and they beat a top 6 ranked Miami, and prevented them from going to the ACC championship and prevented them from going to the college football playoff. So when I say all of that information, I would think, going off of what you said, that this was a pretty good year.
Yeah, I think so. And I think um, just keeping the momentum going, the beauty of Fran Brown is that he's going to recruit well.
Yeah.
So the team will be restocked. You're going to lose some studs, obviously, to the NFL. LaQuint and Aronde are gonna go. We'll see, I guess, about Kyle and if he gets another year. But I think the faith and the trust has to be placed in Fran and the staff to step up and go at it again. And I think when people talk about next year and the schedule, I would I would ask anybody to rewind the tape to the beginning of this year
Yeah.
and where the expectations were, what the national pundits thought of Syracuse and where they would finish and this, that, and the other thing. So at the end of the day, game is played on the field, and that's where all of this will be decided. And Fran's proven that he can put a team together. He can coach them up, and he can motivate them to play well in big spots, and that's a recipe for success. So we'll see how things go next year, but I'm definitely optimistic with Fran and the state of the program.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree. Like you said, the national pundits, and listen, I vote in the ACC preseason polls, and I had Syracuse higher than the majority. I would say that I had them in the top 8, and I believe to the majority of the media that covers the ACC, I think they were 11 out of 17. So, they obviously handled business. They did the things that they needed to do. You brought up something here, Kyle McCord. Now, when the conversation came up about a 5th year, I said, factually, logically, he can't have one because he's played at least 4 games in 4 seasons.
Yeah.
The NCAA would have to break their own rule. That's what the waiver's for. Now,
Yeah.
can you apply for a waiver? Anybody can apply for a waiver. You know that. You can apply for anything. There's guys got 9 years, 7 years. So he can't get a COVID year. People have asked about that. He can't have the COVID year. He wasn't there in 2020. But when this comes up, from what I can understand, in his true freshman season, he played in 5 games, but in the 5th game, he played at the end of the game in garbage time just to handle the game because the game was over. So the waiver that you apply for is saying, hey, he never had a freshman season. Can you count that first year, 2021-22, as a freshman year? Because he played in 4 games. He was the backup quarterback, and this game was a nothing game. He just came in to basically hold on to the football.
Yeah.
So if they do that, they have to break their own rule, but they would be providing him a 5th year. Your thoughts on that? And I'm going to say something that Syracuse fans might get mad about, but I'm looking out for the best for Kyle, and I know Fran Brown is too. This year in the 2025 NFL draft, there are not a lot of quarterbacks. And the top quarterbacks that they're talking about, he beat one of them head-to-head, and Cam Ward, and had better numbers then. He had better numbers than the other guy, Shedeur Sanders, in total yards. Kyle McCord has the single-season passing touchdown record at Syracuse, the single-season passing yard record at Syracuse, both passing Ryan Nassib. He has the most passing yards in a single season by an ACC quarterback in the history of the ACC over Phillip Rivers, Deshaun Watson, and so on, Trevor Lawrence, and so on and so forth. So when we look at everything that he's done and a pool that is very shallow at quarterback in the NFL, if I'm Kyle's agent, I'm saying, yeah, we can make NIL money, but there's like no quarterbacks. Like if you get drafted in the third round, you might end up starting or being a dominant backup on an NFL team. So my question to you, and I guess we're playing devil's advocate because some people are screaming at their screens right now saying, Dan, why'd you say this out loud? But I mean, I'm looking out for Kyle. I care about Kyle the human.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what are your thoughts? If he's granted this fifth year, still knowing that the NFL doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks coming in this year, what are your thoughts?
I would think it's tough. Obviously, going to be a little biased, but I think it if he gets the fifth year, I think he plays, and I think the reason behind that is certainly there's the NIL factor, right? There's a it's a different world than it was 5 years ago, right? This is a different discussion, it's a different conversation. Um, I also know that in the NFL, the two hardest positions to stick are quarterback and special teams, kicker, punter, snapper. And the reason for that is because there's such little turnover at those positions year
Yeah.
to year.
Yeah.
Um, I think the NFL is just one of those things that it's not going anywhere. You take out your insurance settlement or your insurance policy, and you kind of roll the dice of saying, hey, like I think I can get better. I'm playing the game. I'm playing well, and you go the path of playing another year at college. I
Yeah.
I'm not in Kyle's shoes. I don't have uh, all of the different factors that are going to come into play here, but I think Kyle really enjoyed his time with Fran and with this Syracuse program. And I think Kyle's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and wants to keep going. And the NFL is going to be there, right? It's
Yeah.
it's not going there whether he goes this year or next. I hear you on the strength of the quarterback class. It's such a crapshoot year in and year out,
Yeah.
and you look at the quarterback, the world of quarterbacks, both in college and NFL, and how important it is to a team to have a guy that can play in order for you to win.
Yeah.
So I think Fran wants to have that known commodity in Kyle, have him back. So I think the recruiter in Fran is doing anything and everything he can to make sure Kyle gets that fifth year and uses it with Syracuse. Um, because at the NFL level, I mean, it's the same thing. Those teams they look for a quarterback
Yeah.
because that is ultimately what you build your franchise around. You can have 10 other guys on the offense, and in most cases, if you don't have a competent guy that can win you games 16, 17 weeks out of the season, that's gonna doom your franchise. And so I think the quarterback thing is a challenge. I think it doesn't hurt him to come back to Syracuse and put more time in. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens, but I would guess if he gets the waiver, I think he stays. Does he get the waiver? I think that's a whole other, another
Yeah.
question. I
Yeah.
I would have lost a lot of money if I was betting on knowing what the NCAA was going to do. Um, and I think a lot of other people were. I can't tell you there's a whole lot of logic that is applied. I think
Yeah.
it's who you catch on what day and what they decide is
True.
ultimately how those decisions are made. Like you said, they would have to break their own rule
Yeah.
um, to do that, and they've done things like that before, and then they've you know held true to their rules and scenarios where it doesn't really make sense to do that, and there's obvious ways or obvious reasons to make a what most people would deem a common sense decision, and they don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot, and I think a lot of people know that. But I would guess that Kyle, if he gets that year, he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, and you said it perfectly. I mean, they don't. The NCAA don't make any sense. There's a part of me that believes that when the NCAA has somebody come and ask them for a waiver, they have a wheel in their office and they just spin it and they see what happens. And they're like, no, you can't get a waiver, but you can get this coupon to friendlies. Like, I don't, I mean, I'm not confident in anything. I mean, there's kids that go to them and say, like, I want to be closer to my family. There's someone in my
Yeah.
family that's sick. No
Yep.
waiver. And then
Yeah.
there's Tate, and then there's Tate Martell that was like, I don't want to fight for my job in Ohio State. I just want to go play at Miami right now. And they're like, cool. So, I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. If he gets, and that's the thing about this is like there's all this hearsay going on. If he gets the waiver, I do agree with you. If he fights for this thing, then like, why
Yeah.
not come back? And I do believe that if he puts together a similar season against arguably better opponents on the schedule, then
Yeah.
he's going to talk himself into potential. I mean, I think he can talk some NFL GMs that draft him in the first round or the second round. So, I think if he has back to back really strong seasons at Syracuse, then we're talking about a day one guy or an early day two guy on the draft board, which is going to be great for him because he'll be here doing his thing and there'll be NIL with that. And then he'll go on to the NFL and do that. To me, it's not all about the money. To some people, it is. And
Yeah.
so, just to give y'all, like he can make money that changes things in today's college climate. But if they're gonna award fifth years to players, regardless of what's gone on, knowing that Syracuse has struggled in special teams, will you please come back?
I would love to.
So let's go to rapid fire. Rob and I are gonna put each other on the hot seat here. We're gonna have some fun with this as we do on Wake Up Call. We're here with Rob Long, Syracuse punter alum on all things orange following the 2024-25 season. And we are inside of the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Go and see Great Lakes Honda City for your next ride by going to 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool. You get to ask me the first question. What do you got?
Ooh, favorite food in Syracuse.
Oh boy. Favorite food in I mean, I'm a Syracusan. I was born and raised. So, favorite food in Syracuse. There's so many things that I like here.
Yeah. Favorite meal.
Oh boy. Okay. Let me think. I'm gonna have to make it like a death row meal. So, so I'm Italian and Hispanic, so I could definitely play a death row person on the movie. Not in real life, folks, but I. Let me see here. So I would have sweet heat pizza that's got Mike's Hot Honey on it because they did it, as far as I know, they did it before everybody else at Pizza Man.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get sweet heat pizza for Pizza Man. I'm going to get my lemon pepper extra crispy wings from Pizza Man. Apparently, Lou Williams has lemon pepper wings at a strip club down in Atlanta. These are better, Lou. I just want to tell you that. So, and you don't have to degrade yourself to go and get some good wings at Pizza Man. So I'm going to say those from Pizza Man. I'm going to say from the Wildcat, the pepperoni and sausage pizza, and the chicken Caesar wrap. I'm going to say from Avicolli's, the veal parmesan sub, and their tortellini. And then I'm going to pick one more thing. Man. I'm going to say from Carvel DeWitt, they're my longest standing partner. I will eat Carvel ice cream cake for breakfast. So I'm going to say Carvel ice cream cake. That's my death row meal. We're going to go out fun. We're going to make it
I like
interesting.
it.
All right, Rob, I'm going to throw it back to you, but I'm going to do it my way. What is your death row meal? Give me everything that you could possibly give me for your feast on death row.
Man. Are we going Syracuse
Yeah,
foods
Syracuse.
or just general? Syracuse.
Syracuse, yeah.
So, the hot tomato oil from Possibilities with their cheese ravioli is an A plus every single time.
Okay.
Uh, so that's a good one for me. Um, Man, what else? Love Possibilities. Love the staples. Dinosaur's great. And then what's another thing up there?
Oh, I forgot to say this. My Cuse McMother, the sandwich that I created at Mother's Cupboard, bacon, egg, and cheese
Oh
inside
yeah.
of 2 pieces of French toast. That's my breakfast sandwich. So.
No, that's I want that. That's what I want. Add that to my list.
All right.
Um, yeah, that's a great one. And then man, uh I love breakfast food. Stella's Diners is a staple for me as well. So I'd go with the probably the ham and cheese omelet from Stella's Diner.
All right. Fair enough. After we said Mother's Cupboard and you mentioned somebody else, the call dropped, but that's okay. So,
Sorry.
so Rob, what's your next question for me?
Oh man. Prediction for Syracuse next year. What's the football season look like?
Man. All right. Well, let's look at this 2025 schedule. So I'm going to bring it up in front of me here. We're going to go down the line. You're making me do an early prediction, so I blame you fully for this. So here we go. So Syracuse has okay, so the cool thing about this and the cool thing for me personally is that I will end this season and start next season in the same place.
Oh,
I will
nice.
I will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the College Football Playoff National Championship in Atlanta, Georgia on January 20th to end the season. I will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia to start the season when Syracuse plays Tennessee in the Aflac kickoff game.
Wow.
So for next season. So that's pretty cool for me. I'm gonna I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Syracuse comes out there and feels the fire and they kick some tail in Tennessee and they blow out the dull orange with that vibrant orange. So I'm gonna pick Syracuse against Tennessee because I feel that one. UConn, I'm gonna pick Syracuse again against UConn. And then Colgate, I'm going to pick Syracuse. So that's three. At Clemson, Death Valley, it's tough because they've had, like you said, quarterback and specialist. When you don't have the right one, Cade Klubnik's done some good things, but it's a when you come after Trevor Lawrence, it's hard to really stick the landing, so to speak. DJ Uyunglele didn't do it. Cade's done
Yeah.
better. I like Cade, but I'm interested to see what Clemson's going to do at quarterback. So let's say they lose that one on the road. So let's say 3-1. They got to go to Georgia Tech. I'm going to say 3-2. They got to go to Miami. They got to go to SMU. I know these coaches. So this is tough. At SMU, Rhett Lashley, man. So I'm going to say Syracuse wins one of the games between SMU and Miami. So let me see one. So I got them 3-2, 3-3, 4-3. Boston College at home, I'm gonna say 5-3. Duke is at home. Manny Diaz, oh, he's a tough coach to play up against. I don't think they get credit enough for what they did bringing him in. So I'm gonna say 5-4. He's got to go up against Bill Belichick in North Carolina. I'm gonna say 5-5. I'm gonna say they beat Pitt and return the favor. I'm gonna say 6-5. Then they got to
Yeah.
go to Notre Dame. So I'm going to say right now in the early, how dare you make me do this morning, early prediction. I'm going to say 6-6.
Yeah. I don't think I realized that that gauntlet there of at Clemson, at Georgia, at Miami, at SMU.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a tough month.
I'm going to say 6-6. So I'm going to throw this back to you. And so they haven't figured out the full on schedule. So when I read you all those ats, that's not in a row. So
Okay.
that's
Okay. All right.
the only ones that are scheduled are
Got
Tennessee August 30th, UConn September 6th, Colgate September 13th, and then everything else will get figured out. But they're going
All
to be
right. So,
at Notre Dame too, just so everybody
yeah.
knows. And Jerry said his stomach was growling with us going through all that. So shout out to you, Jerry. Mine too, sitting in the studio. So my question back to you, Mr. Long, is we went food, we went football a little bit here. Okay, if you were gonna serenade your wife,
Ooh.
to 3 different tracks, what songs would you sing Mrs. Long?
Oh man. For starters, I probably wouldn't. Um, Man, that's a good one. Music is a weak spot for me because I love music, but I don't keep up with it. I definitely go with um our wedding song was "May I Have This Dance," Francis and the Lights, with Chance the Rapper.
Okay.
Um, so that would have to be one. Um, Man, I don't know the other two. That's a good question. I need more prep time on that one.
Okay. So I'll ad lib this a little bit. If they're okay, so let's do it this way. I'm single. You're married. There are
Sure.
single people in this world that are watching and listening right now. Your words of advice on love. How about that?
Uh, Man, wait till you find the right person. That's the biggest thing because when you do, it's the best thing in the world. And knowing that you also have to bring the best version of yourself to that relationship, right? If you're not happy by yourself, you're not going to be happy in a relationship. So make sure you take care of yourself, you work on yourself, and you continue to show up and try and be the best version of yourself, for that person and being able to support them.
Couldn't ask for better advice coming from a better person, Rob Long. And by the way, of every picture that I put out for the guests I'm going to have on the show, who is dressed better than that? He looks like he's going on some late night talk show over here, and maybe we're going to do that someday. We'll see. Lord knows that I have comedy for the late night. So, Rob Long here, a Syracuse punter, alum, and of course, uplifting athletes and all the work that he does in the community. Rob, I appreciate you, and I'm holding you to it. Something in this studio
Yeah.
needs to be Rob Long based. So you better be sending me a text message soon. I'm going to hold you to that.
Sounds good, Dan. Will do. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with everything.
Of course. Same to you, and my best to you and the family. And I look forward to you letting me know how the missus liked that song you sang to her today.
Sounds good. I will.
Take care.
All right. See ya.
See you. That coming from Rob Long one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We're going to take a quick step aside. For those of you excited for hour number 2, which every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we feature the Bearcats in our Bearcat Breakroom special today with student athlete and coach. We have coming onto the broadcast Brevin, Cassella, as well as head coach Kyle Borshoff of the Binghamton Bearcats wrestling program. And we got a lot of great stuff to talk about with 2 awesome gentlemen right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com. And a Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Of course, Great Lakes Honda City on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. And I'm so proud to be here every single Tuesday with the Bearcats in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership. The Binghamton University Bearcats join me across all of their programs with student athletes, coaches, and administration, speaking on what it means to be a part of this larger Bearcat family, as well as their specific teams. And I'm here today with a wrestling special with Binghamton University. The wrestling team is back on the show, and we're here with head coach Kyle Borshoff, and we also have Brevin, Cassella here on the broadcast inside of the 2024-25 season. So Kyle, Brevin, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us on and looking forward to talking about Bearcat wrestling.
Yeah, excited to be on. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And Brevin, I'm going to have you stay here first because Coach has been on the show before. So we're going to have Coach sit and watch you talk for a second. How about
Sweet.
that? So,
that's good.
My question to you, Brevin. So we look at this. There's a lot of different things that you've accomplished and a lot of successes. I'm going to read through some of these. You tell me if there was any missed here. And I got to give a big time shout out to the awesome information department, the sports information department over at Binghamton University for all the information that comes through here. So big thanks to Nick for this. These are some of the accomplishments to read in your world, and those are as follows. For Brevin, overall career record 89-39 at Binghamton, a career dual record of 39-14. You've collected 14 major decisions, 9 technical falls, and 7 pins in 4.5 seasons at Binghamton. You've qualified for nationals 3 times, winning a total of 3 matches at the event between 2022 and 2024. You're a 4-time EIWA place winner, 8th in 2021, 5th in 22, 4th in 23, 3rd in 24. And you finished 5th at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational in December of 2024, considered one of the most competitive in-season wrestling tournaments in the country. The last time I had Binghamton Wrestling on the broadcast, we were talking about going into the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational. So those are just a few things to read off, Brevin. When I read that off in your 4.5 seasons at Binghamton, what does all of this say about the work that you put in?
I mean, I think it shows that you don't really have to, go to like a huge or like big conference to, achieve a lot in wrestling, as long as you have the coaching staff and the support from your teammates, the school. You can make a lot of big waves throughout the country. And I wasn't a guy who was highly recruited coming out of high school. I wasn't like the top 100 recruit or anything like that, but I trusted in Kyle and some of the other coaches that we had on staff, and now too, like some of those younger guys coming in, I trust Louie and Sam and all my teammates, and I think that's a testament to me and them, because I've through them I've been able to get a lot better every single year. So I think that's what that shows, and I think that we're building a winning culture here at Binghamton, and I think it's only gonna keep getting better from here. So
you said you trusted in Coach Kyle, your head coach, and trusted in this coaching staff as well, people over time. What was it about Kyle's message and the message of Binghamton that not only spoke to you, but that you actually believed that they were telling you the truth?
Yeah, so I was doing a couple of visits at the time, and Kyle was the only coach he said, oh, well, we're gonna come and do a home visit. And so they came to my high school and watched me practice for a little bit. We talked for a little bit. I thought that was kind of cool. I was kind of caught off guard a little bit at first. I wasn't really expecting him to want to come down to Massachusetts, but it meant a lot for me, personally, because it meant I could build that initial connection with Kyle, and show that he showed to me that there was initial interest there, and then we talked a little bit more. I was able to get up to campus in the middle of the season, I think. Watched a couple of duels, and just instantly fell in love with everything about Binghamton. I remember I was on the car ride with my mom, and she was actually a former athlete in college as well too. And she tells me, she was like, if you know, you know. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but if you know, you know. And after leaving Cal's office and having us talked, and just being with some of the guys and experiencing the whole atmosphere at Binghamton, I knew instantly that this is the place that I wanted to be for the next 4 to 5 years. So, and I know I don't think there's a better decision I could have made, and I'm truly blessed to have the opportunity to wrestle at Binghamton these past 5 years. So yeah.
Well, you said when you know, and great advice from your mom, by the way. And it sounds like 4.5 years later that you would do it all over again.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there was a single thing I would change about it. This experience, it's been great for me, and a lot of highs and lows, but that comes with the sport of wrestling. So I'm grateful for any opportunity that I've gotten, and we'll continue to get through these next couple months. So I wouldn't change a thing.
Coach, you've heard your student athlete speak about the fact that it meant a lot to him that you wanted to come visit him in Clinton, Massachusetts, and spend some time in his home, spend some time around him, that he believed in the message then and he still believes in it today. What did you see in Brevin from the beginning, and what does it mean to you that he would make the same decision again?
Yeah, so Brevin was a little bit of a late recruit for us. My brother Jason worked with me at the time, and I think we were on the road competing somewhere. I forget where we were wrestling, but he was at the Eastern States tournament recruiting, and I was watching the tournament on the bus from my laptop, and I got to watch Brevin, and I called my brother. I said, "Hey, you gotta go check this kid out. You gotta get his information. We gotta get a hold of him after this tournament's done." And that was after Brevin had lost, because the match that he lost was against a very good opponent, and I loved the way that he wrestled in that match and knew that he was going to have a great future ahead of him. And Brevin turned into what he's been for us as an athlete and a person. He's done an incredible job, and that guy that beat him went to 2 different Power 5 Division I universities, and I don't think he is on the team at the one he's at anymore, right? So their careers couldn't have gone in 2 different directions, and that's just a testament to who Brevin is and what his work ethic is, and really just his belief in himself as well as what we've been doing. So it's incredible to hear Brevin say things like that. It's very nice. Obviously, he's been a staple in our program for the past several years, and he's had a lot of success, and I know he wants to have more success, and he's got 1 shot left, and he's been a picture of consistency this season. We talked about it a little bit today, just winning big matches in almost every single match he's had this season. He's been against a nationally ranked guy here, so he's doing a great job, and just fortunate that I guess we were in the right place at the right time, and we were able to connect with him and get out to Massachusetts and see him there. We had a great visit with him. My younger brother lived in Boston, so it was nice. Brevin's brother Jason.
We've launched your audio a little bit here. It went low, so I want to make sure we don't miss this, Coach. You're talking about being in Massachusetts. If we can just check that audio on your end, but I want you to go. I don't want to miss what you were about to say.
Yeah, are you good? You got me?
Yeah, we're good now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we went and saw Brevin, me and my brother Jason, and after we saw Brevin, we went and visited my youngest brother Corey, who lived in Boston, and family's always been important for me in my wrestling career. And when we bring guys into our program, we make it about being a family. And I think you see that if you look at our roster over the past several years. Our best guys are sticking around. They're staying here. And, it's not because we're offering them $1 million. I wish we could, Brevin, but it's because we have a great environment for these guys. And I think that they get a lot out of this program.
Well, and to that point, Coach, like you said, I mean, we live in a world, especially in Division I athletics, where it's so much not about the coach anymore. It's not about the education anymore. It's not about the atmosphere or the culture. It's about me. What can you get me? How much money can you give me? How much exposure can I get? How many endorsements can I get? We hear that. We see that. But Binghamton hasn't been like that. Not that you shy away from NIL, not that it doesn't matter in Binghamton. But like you said, we're bringing these guys in. Family's important to you. you're keeping the family together. Your guys are talented, and when other people find out they're talented, they're staying in Binghamton. Why do you think they're committed to Binghamton year in and year out in a world where so many people are changing schools like underwear? Why are people committing to Binghamton, recommitting to Binghamton, and just what you can say to truly building a culture and a family, and dare I say it, I guess trying to be old school and not just about the me, me, me?
Yeah, I wish I had a great answer, and the best I can tell you is that I I believe that we treat our athletes well. I think that we have great communication. Um, I think that Brevin touched on it a little bit. We have a really nice culture. We do have a great education. We're one of the best public universities in the country. We try to get our guys master's degrees. We try to get our guys engaged in coursework that they're going to get a lot out of while they're here. So there's a lot of reasons I think that people stay here at Binghamton, but I wish I had a great answer for you. All I can tell you is that whatever we're doing, it's keeping guys like Brevin happy enough to stay here, and I appreciate that. And I don't anticipate that I'll be changing the way that I coach anytime soon. So hopefully, we just continue to build on what we've been doing and providing that avenue and culture that people want to be successful in.
Yeah. Well, Brevin, I mean, to the point of what Coach just said, where he said he can't really put his finger on it, why do you stay? Why do you hang out? If you're out here doing good things and you're being successful and maybe you're catching the eye of other schools and other opportunities come out there, why are you a part of this family? Why do you stay at Binghamton? Do you have an answer to what the secret sauce is with the Bearcats?
It's funny that you asked that question, actually. I remember, I think after the first time I qualified for nationals, I had like a bunch of people ask me back home, like, "Oh, like, well, what are you gonna do now? Like, where are you gonna go now? Like, you need to transfer, to a Power Five school, this and that." And I was like, "Well, why do I need to do that? I've seen improvements throughout my wrestling, where I'm at, and I don't see why I can't continue to improve and be that." And a big thing for me going into it was loyalty. And Kyle and Binghamton were, one of the only schools who like reached out to me initially and had my back, and I think would continue to have my back throughout, anything. So why would I not, show that back, And I think that goes to speak about our program as a whole. I think that, we are very tight knit, and it's hard to separate us. So I think, the bonds I've made throughout Binghamton, I have my best friends go here. I met, great people like Kyle, other coaches in the past. So I just, I never have felt a reason to ever leave Binghamton. It's always just felt like home to me. And I would never want to change something like that, So that's mainly my reason. I can't really speak for, maybe some of the other guys on the team, but that's the reason why I stay.
And your first season in Binghamton was during COVID, 2020, 2021. We go back to that season where you only had 7 opportunities there, had an overall record of 4-3, 4-0 record in duels. But in the COVID year, obviously things were very different. The NCAA awarded a forgiveness year, essentially, and whoever was a student athlete on campus registered in 2020 to 2021 had the opportunity within that season period to have an extra year. So you took advantage of that. You're still here at Binghamton, and we're talking about 2024-25. So why continue all of this on at Binghamton beyond this? You get this bonus year, right? You continue your education. You continue your opportunity to grow and learn in the classroom, and then you also continue to stay on this team and on the wrestling team with the Bearcats. When you were given this bonus year from the NCAA, this 5th year, why was it important to you to not only continue your time with this family at Binghamton wrestling-wise, but also to continue your education at Binghamton?
I think just because the opportunities that, Binghamton University has given me, I'm able to get a great degree while, going out and be able to wrestle some of the best guys in the country. So I think that's a huge part of, the recruiting process is being able to, set guys up. I know Kyle talks about it a lot, set guys up for after college is over. You can't wrestle forever. I wish I could, but eventually everything must come to an end. And it really does. It gives guys a chance to, go and get a 4-year degree or, go and get their master's afterwards. And you're doing it, while wrestling. So why not? It kind of seems like an easy decision, but it really was like the smartest thing to do. So, yeah.
Before we get back to Coach here in this Bearcat break room, focusing on the wrestling team with the Bearcats at Binghamton University and our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. You are also a football player, Brevin. So how did football help wrestling, and how did it maybe hinder? How does it help you, and did it hurt you at all? Was there something about football that you had to unlearn when you're on the mat?
Yeah, I mean, I think wrestling definitely helped me more so with football.
Okay.
I played a couple years in high school, and then I think I had to make the decision for myself what was better for me in the long run, and I really did like football and I enjoyed it, but it was kind of getting in the way a little bit of wrestling season. I wasn't able to compete at all these big tournaments that a lot of the top guys in the country were competing at. So I wanted to, put my foot in those waters a little bit. And at the end of the day, I think it was the right decision to, just stick to wrestling year round. But it definitely helped with both. It's a different mentality just because, football's a lot more team oriented, and although wrestling does have that team oriented mindset to it too. It is when you're out there, it's just you and another person. So,
Yeah.
But I did like it, but at the end of the day, I needed to make a decision, and I think I made the right one. So,
Yeah, I think it would say that you've done well for yourself up to this point. Coach, if there was a football team at Binghamton University, what position would you put Brevin at?
Oh man, I think I'd probably put him at receiver. He's got good hands. He's pretty quick off the line, and he's pretty tall, so he can get up there and he can win some jump balls, I think. If he was on the other side of the ball, I'd probably put him at linebacker. I think Brevin would make a good linebacker.
Yeah.
That also seems like the most fun position in football to me, so maybe I'm just projecting, but I think he'd be good at that too.
Yeah, I would have picked linebacker for him as well, so makes sense here. Coach, we said great things about Brevin's career, but I'm not going to let you out of this one without saying some things too. Hopefully we make you blush a little bit. We'll see what I can do here. 8 seasons as the head wrestling coach at Binghamton, 10th season overall with the program, 8th as the head coach, 49 duels as the head coach at Binghamton, the third most in program history with 49 dual victories. Led Binghamton to their first win against a Division I top 20 program when you defeated number 18 Navy 18-17, and that was within this past calendar year back on January 21st, 2024. Also helped Binghamton defeat a Big Ten conference opponent in each of the last 2 seasons, Northwestern 21-15 on February 16th of 2024, and Maryland 28-10 within the last few days here, January 5th, 2025. I'm going to stop there for a moment. A Division I top 20 victory against Navy has happened within the last less than a year that we're talking, because we're talking here and having this in the first full week of January, and here you are, you did that on January 21st, 2024, and then beating the Big Ten twice in less than a calendar year, February 16th, 2024, and January 5th, 2025. Bring me into those, a top 20 Division I win, and then 2 wins over the Big Ten. Not only are these huge for Binghamton wrestling, but they've all happened in less than 365 days.
Sure. The Navy win last year was great for the program. The academies are always tough. Army and Navy, they put good wrestlers on the mat every single weight. They're good. They stay in good position. They wrestle really hard. So every year when we go into those duels, when we have them, we know that the academies are going to compete hard, right? And we have to figure out, what can we beat them with? Where can we beat them at? The Navy matchup last year was a good matchup for us going into it. We kind of knew, what it looked like on paper. We kind of knew where we could win and compete well. And that match came down to heavyweight. And our heavyweight and the Navy's, the Academy's heavyweight had split matches. So they had wins and losses against each other. So that was an exciting duel for us. Our heavyweight got that win to seal the victory. It was big for him as a wrestler. It was big for our program. I've always felt a bit of a rivalry with the Naval Academy, just being an EIWA conference guy my entire collegiate career as an athlete and a coach. So Navy's always been a conference opponent for me. And I've always loved when we've been able to get wins over the academies as an athlete and a coach. So it's always a nice win for us to beat one of those guys. The Big Ten wins are great, right? The Big Ten is the best conference in wrestling. For everyone that competes in the Big Ten is well-resourced. They have great recruits on their roster, and they're just really strong wrestling programs. So to get Big Ten wins in our sport is, really an incredible feat for us. And, we want to continue to give ourselves opportunities to do that. This season, we wrestled Illinois, we wrestled Penn State, and now we've wrestled Maryland, as well as some other Power 5 conference schools. So we compete against these best teams in the country so that we can figure out how to get better. Can we beat them? Can we compete with them? What do we need to do better? What are we doing well? And the win over Maryland was, I tweeted after the match, that was the best dual meet we've ever had since I've been at Binghamton.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, our team wrestled phenomenally. We had a number of upsets that fell our way, beating a bunch of their nationally ranked athletes, returning national qualifiers, and just getting really nice wins. And that was the first time I've ever beaten Maryland as a coach or as an athlete. And I had some really good teams when I was an athlete. We finished 5th in the country one year, and I don't think we beat Maryland that season. So that was cool for me to get that win over those guys. We had a tight loss to them a couple years back, so it was nice to avenge that. But we totally controlled that match from 25 to heavyweight, with the kind of the big stamp on it being Will Ebert getting a nice win over the number 9 ranked wrestler in the country. Ivan Garcia knocking off a nationally ranked guy as well, and so did Brevin in that duel. So we controlled that duel so well they didn't put their nationally ranked heavyweight out because the match was over. They didn't want our guy to wrestle him. So it was cool. It was great. It was really nice to compete with them. I want to thank the Journeyman organization for making us a part of all of their events this year and giving us the opportunities to compete with those teams. So I think that was really important for the growth of our program, and just looking forward to getting mostly into conference and former conference matches here. The IWA split up, so we lost the Ivy League schools, but we're still going to compete with a number of those guys this year. So moving forward over the next month and a half, we're going to see a lot of familiar faces as we're competing in our dual meets.
Yeah, and perfect segue to what I was going to speak on here in the EIWA, EWA to some people, Eastern Intercollegiate Wrestling Association, and just what this means for the future. Like you said, the Ivy League schools decided to leave, form their own, but EWA stays itself. It's just different now, right? It doesn't have the Ivy League schools, but it still exists as its own conference. There's 12 members, but for the first time ever here, starting in 2024-25, we've seen EIWA split into 2 different divisions, the Independence Division and the Patriot Division. In the Independence Division, you're a part of that side with Drexel, Franklin and Marshall, Hofstra, LIU, Morgan State, and Sacred Heart. And then in the Patriot Division, we have American, where you competed as a student athlete. We have Army West Point, Bucknell, Lehigh, and Navy. What can you say to this as we're starting to get in, to this EWA side of things, into this conference, these conference matchups and whatnot, and the heart of it here in the new year? Just what you think about the Ivy League schools leaving, and then what EIWA decided to do to split into 2 divisions and form the Independence and the Patriot.
Yeah, the EIWA in our sport is a very historic organization. We're the oldest wrestling conference that exists. We've had a ton of different members, some that have moved on to bigger conferences, some that left, no longer have programs. But the EIWA has been around for a very long time. The EIWA has always managed to be successful in the sport of wrestling, and I believe we will continue to be successful in the sport of wrestling. Uh, as the NCAA has been changing over the past couple years, I think it was in the best interest of the Ivy League and probably for us as well that they did split off to have their own conference championship. I believe they're doing that pretty much across the board. They're having Ivy League championships,
Yeah.
and kind of going away from having their teams compete in other divisions.
Yeah.
But I think having more smaller conferences is a good thing for wrestling. I think that having more smaller conferences gives a better voice to our coaches. One of the very important components that exists in our sport is the coaches ranking panel. And the more conferences that we have, the more coaches are represented on that rankings panel. And I believe that will help create more parity in the rankings. And I think that's a good thing for us in the long run, for us and the Ivy League and all of the other conferences that are not Power 5 or Power 4 conferences. So I think that stuff's all good. Splitting into the two divisions within the EIWA was really just kind of something that we figured would be a fun competition to have. There's never really been like a dual meet championship in our conference in the past. Yeah. And creating a couple of divisions to compete for a championship with our overarching tournament still being the final championship was a good idea. It's a fun idea. We're kind of rejoining some of these schools we have a tradition with. Hofstra and Drexel and Sacred Heart were all a part of our previous conference, so kind of putting us back together. And then the Patriot League schools are all Patriot League schools. They compete in everything against each other. So it was a nice way for us to create just a meaningful dual meet competition and make the dual meets matter a little bit more and kind of declare a champion on each side. So we'll certainly be gearing up for our dual meet against Hofstra and Morgan State, Franklin and Marshall, Drexel, and those are important matches for me. Right? We want to go out and win those dual meets. We want to be the Independence League champions this year. And
yeah.
As tough as it is to say, like, without thinking about that in the past, maybe we're more likely to rest Brevin in the past if we don't really need them. But now it's like, listen, when we're going out and we're wrestling these schools, we're wrestling Brevin. We're wrestling our best guys. We want to win that divisional championship.
Yeah, and Brevin, I'm going to go to you for this, but I mean, it is interesting here to look at where things are when we look at wrestling in NCAA Division I. There's over 70 NCAA member institutions that sponsor Division I wrestling, from the EIWA, Southern, Ivy, obviously spreading off into their own now, Big 12, Big 10, the Mid-American, a.k.a. the MAC. Does it matter to you, Brevin? What are your thoughts on looking at the grand scheme of things, of being a part of history, being a part of change, EIWA, being a storied place for wrestling, a storied conference, and now we're seeing schools that left, and then we're also seeing this breaking into two divisions. Do you like it? Do you not like it? How do you view things in the wrestling world in Division I?
I kind of like it. It kind of gives it more of like a competitive aspect. Like, you're able to, I think it'll allow to like build more rivalries with some of those teams over time, even though we like may already have a couple here and there, but it'll definitely make things a lot more competitive. I think so within the dual meet atmosphere, and I think that's an exciting thing to see because it's really a great atmosphere where you can get behind your team. I think we did a good job of that this weekend, especially in that first Maryland duel and throughout the whole weekend. But in that duel specifically, the team energy was really high. It was just one guy after another. We really all came together in that duel, and I'm hoping to carry that throughout the season. So I'm hoping there'll be more of that throughout those duels.
We know you're going to be home more coming up here. Brevin. So I know you guys have gotten to travel. You've gotten to do some cool things. I go back and look at this schedule and where you've gotten to be so far and some of these opportunities that you've had, including Las Vegas for that Cliff Keen Las Vegas Collegiate Wrestling Invitational, Nashville, Tennessee, and now we're going to see you come in to the Binghamton area, be in the Southern Tier, be at home. You have Hofstra coming up. You have Lehigh as well. Cornell coming to town. Sacred Heart before the EIWA Championship. So we know you'll be at home. What is that going to mean to you to be in familiar grounds? You guys have traveled a lot. Despite being in the state of New York, you haven't been home. So knowing that you're going to be at home, be on your own mats, just what that does for this team and what you want the community to know about why they should come out and see these matches.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing better than being able to, compete in your home gym. Having familiar faces there, locals throughout the crowd, your family members being able to come to matches. So I'm trying to cherish that as much as I can. It's my last season, so I'm really looking forward to a couple of those home duels. And I would encourage, the local community to come out just because I think that the way Binghamton wrestling is wrestling right now is exciting, and I think that it's a good time. We're able to watch some of the best wrestling in the country.
Yeah.
And I think that each guy's style of wrestling is something different. Some of our smaller guys are a little scrappier. Kyle talked about it this morning. He said that our 25-pounder and the Columbia guy, watching them was like watching two cats get into like a cat fight, just never stop moving. So I know it's exciting, and I think that that's what the sport of wrestling needs to grow is a lot more fans. So I think that it'd be great if we could get a lot more people coming to those events.
Well, we're going to play some rapid fire. It's going to allow you, Brevin, to put me on the hot seat. I will put you on the hot seat. We'll also do the same with Coach, and then I got a little spin on it here at the end in this Bearcat Breakroom, proudly presented inside of our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Binghamton University Bearcats here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Brevin, my first question is for you, but I always defer. You can ask me about wrestling. You can ask me about anything. I know the question I have for you, but I never go first. My guests go first. So you can ask me anything in the world. What's your question for me?
Anything in the world.
Anything.
Oh, jeez.
Just remember that I have the right to mute your mic. Go ahead. Anything in the world.
What about your all-time favorite athlete to watch?
Oh, man. If you put every sport together, man. My all-time favorite athlete to watch. Probably Barry Sanders.
Okay.
I mean, it's tough. It's really tough. But I've always had a connection to the running back position. I love it. I respect it. Got a lot of friends that are running backs. And I'd probably have to say Barry Sanders because he could be on a 2 and whatever Detroit team. They could be 2-10 at the time. And the dude would hit a pile. And I'm like, why aren't they blowing the whistle yet? And then you'd see the pile moving, and it was just like this moving igloo. And then he'd burst out the other side, and he'd stop, he'd make a move, and he would bend his ankle like he's going to break his bone, and then he'd go in the other direction. And I'm like, this dude, he's on a team that's not good, and he's doing this. Like, what if he had a team that was going to the playoffs? I mean, Barry Sanders should have won 3 Super Bowls, but I'm really, I probably would have to pick him because I go back to just watching him and looking at my parents going like, can you do that? Can you break your bones and then keep moving? I just never understood how this man was like Gumby, but really good. My question to you involves your coach. So,
okay.
Kyle Borshoff was a 2-time All-American wrestler at American back in 2009 and 2010. If you were to wrestle him, if he was in his prime right now and you're out here doing your thing, I'm talking Brevin today versus Kyle Borshoff of 2009-10. Who wins and why?
I think I would tech him.
Okay, why?
I think, I got a little bit of a size advantage, but
okay.
I think once I get that first takedown and just be able to start scoring points on top, I just don't think he could, handle that. So
All right, Coach, now you can make him run in practice. So going over to Coach now, Kyle, first, before you answer your question to me, do you have a rebuttal to Brevin's answer?
Yeah, it's nonsense. There's footage. There's footage that exists of me just ripping Brevin to his back with a mousetrap. And I have a torn ACL. I'm an old man. We're talking about my prime.
Yeah.
It's not close. It's not close. Brevin does what I did in college, but not as well as me. So I'm not sure how he's thinking he's tech falling me. We all know that I pinned Brevin probably, I don't even know if it makes the third period. I think it only goes two. I think he's on his back, and I mean, I don't think it happens. So not this year, right? He's big.
Yeah.
He's 174. He's got some weight on me, right? So now I give him to Louis. Now he's Louis's job. But I don't know. We're talking about my prime. I was pretty good. I did a lot of cool stuff.
Love the back and forth. This makes for a great clip that's going to come out of this show for sure. Kyle, what's your question for me?
If you were to start training tomorrow in a sport that you've never played, which Olympic sport are you most likely to make a team in that you've never done before? Winter or summer games?
Soccer.
Why?
I'm Italian and Hispanic, so it's in my blood first. Second, I would say I've coached it before. I like cardio a lot more than I did when I was in high school. So I do like to walk. I like to get out there. I like to get my body moving. I dated one of the females in my history that I have dated, played for a collegiate soccer team, and she was an outside mid. I respect the heck out of that. I don't know if I might pass out in the first, few minutes if I was at that position, but I feel like soccer would be the Olympic sport that I would pick due to my love for it, my increasing of understanding for it over time, and the fact that I would like to think that it's already in my feet, because I was messing around. My cousin played, and I was messing around in the street. She passed me the soccer ball, and I was just playing with it with my feet, not paying attention. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "What are you doing with the soccer ball?" She's like, you look like you've done it before." And I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just because we're Italian and Hispanic. But yeah, so I'd probably say soccer, but I definitely would have to take all of my endurance stuff and all of my stamina things that I'm doing and put it to the nth degree stat if I wanted to compete in that. It's a good question. I like it. All right, let me see here. All right, Kyle. We're going to stick with sports. So if you were coaching any other sport and I told you that you had to coach this sport right now and it was going into the postseason, what sport do you believe that you could coach into the postseason at this moment right now? I'm going to take you and drop you in this sport. It's the start of the playoffs. What sport do you think that you could coach and win a game in the postseason if it happened right now?
The 100-meter sprint.
Okay. Why?
You just drop me in there with the best athletes in the world, and I tell them to run. Run as hard as you can for 100 meters. You got this. You can do it. You're going to win. Then they're going to win. It's easy. I'm not saying their event's easy. It's really hard. I'm not a 100-meter guy. But I know too little about any other sport to be confident that I could coach a team to a win.
Yeah.
But I think I could get a sprinter to win. I think I could fire him up, get him to run that 100 meters really hard.
What an answer, and what E is with that answer. Well, my curveball is that I'm going to allow you both to question each other. So, Kyle, you can ask Brevin anything in the world. He has to answer it whenever you're ready.
All right, but he has to answer it honestly.
Yes.
Okay. Brevin, who can move more weight, you or your brother?
Oh, my gosh.
His brother's in high school.
Okay, I'll be honest. I'll give it to Tatum on the squats, I'll never live this down too. If he sees this, I will never live this down. He's gonna be talking about it till we're like 80 years old. He can definitely squat more than me, but that's just because of a body type thing. Any other like deadlift or cleans, anything like that, I would 100% beat him.
Coach, do you
Can
you
Can we
concur?
make sure we send this to Tatum, please?
We will. Is that the answer that you thought he was going to give? An honest answer?
No, I thought he was going to say something like when he was talking about wrestling me. But I'm glad that he decided to tell the truth. Brevin, I'm proud of you. Great job.
Brevin, you get the final say. You get the mic drop moment here. You get to ask the final question of this 3-person conversation in this Bearcat break room. You can ask anything in the world to your coach when you're ready.
Oh wow.
Doesn't have to be sports. Can be anything.
I think I kind of know what direction I want to go. I just don't know.
All right.
All right. Who? If you. No, I don't know. I want to go with that one. Sorry.
No, you're good. Not everybody gets to question their coach on something that can be seen all around the world, so take your time.
I want to know how you think a match in a prime, like prime for prime, would go between you and Louis. I'm saying like pound for pound, like same weight, say like somewhere in the middle. Like, how do you think that would go?
I'd kill Louis.
Why do you think that?
Well, I think he would struggle with my bendiness. Wrestling me is like wrestling Gumby mixed with the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes. And I think that would be challenging for Louis. I think if Louis was going to beat me, it would be like he'd get like a quick takedown and he'd get me flat and he'd keep me there for a while and then I'd have to build out of that hole, but I'm not sure we'd end up there. So I'm going to pick myself, Brevin, and if I've coached you for 5 years and I've told you have to always believe that you're going to win.
Yes.
No matter, you have to be crazy to win in wrestling. If I get the crap kicked out of me for a straight hour, at 1 hour and 1 minute, I believe I will win the next time it happens. And that's how you need to believe too. So I would kill Louis. He knows it. I know it. You know it. And now the whole world knows it. And Louis, don't hurt me, please.
And for everybody that doesn't know, Louis, the assistant coach on this team, and Louis, you're going to have to come on the show next, and you're going to have to be able to give your rebuttal. So shout out to Coach Louis out here, and we appreciate you. Probably my favorite statement of this whole conversation is Coach Kyle saying, "Louis, don't hurt me." so that being said, for Kyle Borshoff, the head coach of the Binghamton Bearcats wrestling squad, and of course for student athlete Brevin Cassella here inside of the 2024-25 season, we thank you for being a part of this Bearcat break room on Wake Up Call inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Kyle, thank you, and Brevin, thank you as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We are, of course, inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. And happy to be here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You have had on the show already this morning Rob Long joining us from Syracuse Orange football history as their punter, and of course with uplifting athletes and all the work he's doing in the community to help out families that are going through tough times, as his family did and navigated through it, and paying it forward every single day. Pat Davis is going to be joining me here in just a moment following our Bearcat Breakroom we had with Binghamton Wrestling. Very happy to have Pat Davis here on the show with us, and Pat is someone who has been on the broadcast before here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. He's a tight end alum in the world of Syracuse Orange football. So as we get set to bring him in here, happy to have Pat here as always, and always looking forward to have a good conversation with him on all things orange. So with that being said, speaking about all things orange, the man is decked out in orange this morning. Mr. Davis is picture in picture with us. Pat, how are we doing today?
I'm doing fine, Dan. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, and I appreciate your patience here this morning as we got some things settled up here with our last segment with Binghamton University. So, I wanted to kind of just jump right into the fact that you're a tight end alum at Syracuse, and there's a tight end that's going off to the NFL, and that being Oronde Gadsden II. Upon the news of him leaving, and I want to read what he had to say. In his words, this is what Oronde Gadsden released to the world on his decision. So it is as follows. I want to thank God for blessing me through this journey and putting me in this position. Thank you to my family, friends, and mentors for your support and guidance along the way. To Coach Fran Brown, I believed in your vision for our program. You helped develop me on and off the field into the player and the man I am today. You have taught me so many valuable lessons. I will always carry that DART and CCT mindset. To Coach Johnson, Coach Thomas, and Coach Douglas, who have helped me and pushed me day in and day out to maximize my potential as a player and person, teaching me new things and having me ready to go out each and every day to perform the way I do. Thank you. To all of the teammates I've met along the way, thank you for helping me grow and always being competitive and challenging me every day in practice and making memories and bonds through the years. Lastly, to Orange Nation, thank you for all the support you have shown me through my journey, through the ups and downs. Truly the best fans in the country. After careful consideration with my family, I've decided to declare for the 2025 NFL Draft Forever Orange Aronde Gadsden. As a fellow tight end in Syracuse history, Pat, what are your thoughts on his words?
I think what he said is very complimentary of everybody. I think he gave, praise to God as he should. This guy is a very talented football player and seems to be a good human also. I haven't met him personally. He's probably going to hold all those tight end records if he has any. I'm sure he does until, 20, 30 years from now. John Mackey was arguably the best tight end that's ever played at Syracuse, and arguably in the NFL has a trophy named after him. So I'll be sorry to see Gadsden leave. He's been a great player for the Orange, but he's ready, I think, more than ready to move up to the next step, move up to the next level.
Yeah, you mentioned first and foremost when I asked what your thoughts are on his words, the first thing you said was that it was good that he mentioned God. Why is that important to you?
God is everything, man. Without him, this nothing is possible. This is all possible through him. I thank God every day to be able to wake up every morning. And when I was a player and an athlete, I thanked him every night before I went to bed for the talent that he was that he bestowed upon me. So, it's good to see that this young brother is, in his faith, and that he knows that without a higher power, his talents wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, and that's extremely, and I appreciate that message. As you know, God is very important in my life, and I appreciate that. You and I get to have conversations off the air as well, Pat. And I want to say, before we go anywhere with this, I want to say thank you to you, because since I've reached out to you and met you and had the opportunity to ask you to be on the show a while back here, you have gotten in touch, you've reached out, you've been better than me at times. And so I want to say thank you to you for making yourself available, for being such a kind person, a giving person, and for reminding me about God and faith and the positivity of life. It's never a bad thing to have somebody be there to uplift you even when they don't know that they're doing it. So first and foremost, beyond anything else, I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, man, you're welcome. You're welcome. You were a great guy when I met you at the tailgate that we had, and we're definitely trying to keep in touch. I'm up in Syracuse now and then because my son is up there. So it's always good to reach out to you, and I'm proud of you, just as I'm sure your parents and people who are close to you, who know you and who have known your journey from the start till now. You're doing big things, and we're all proud of you. And I'm sure, because you give credit to God every day, that you already know where it all comes from. So good to have you as my friend, man. And I'm here at any time because I'm orange for life, brother, as you can see.
Yeah, no, and very kind words, and I send those right back to you. It's nice to be around somebody who gives praise to God, and I appreciate all the kind things that you said about me and my journey. I'm happy to have met you on this journey. I'm happy to know you and have you around in my life, and I'm proud for that. I'm happy for that. As a little kid watching these games and collecting the books and collecting cards and magazines and whatnot, you know, if I went back in time and I told that little kid, like, you're going to talk to these guys, he would say, okay, I believe I can do that. And if I said, you're going to be friends with these guys, he probably would have passed out. So, you know, going back to the younger version of me and saying, like, you know, these people don't come on the show and just talk and get off the air and that's it. Like, these are your friends. This family is an ever-growing family for you. And so you're a part of that. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm always happy to break bread and to talk and to catch up and all that. And when you do come into town, I know we tried to link up and do some things, but, you know, I'd love to have you on one of our panels when we have a Syracuse discussion. And, you know, when you are in town, to kind of plan that out ahead of time to make sure we can bring you around Drum and maybe some other guys out here.
Oh, no doubt, man. I'm up for it. Just reach out like you always have, and I'll do the best I can to be there.
Pat Davis here with us this morning, Syracuse Orange football. So, words to Aronde Gadsden. I mean, this is a guy, and you talked about he's probably got some records, and he does, in fact, have them. This season, he was able to put himself in the Syracuse Orange record books for a couple different things here. He has the most receptions for a tight end in Syracuse Orange football history with 143, and he also has the most career receiving yards for a tight end in Syracuse University history with 1,994. Words of advice from tight end to Aronde.
You know, and this is not a negative thing. I think that he is more of an H-back than he is a tight end. You know what I mean? Sort of a Kellen Winslow type guy. You know, he catches more passes than he is in the blocking scheme per se. But, you know, he runs good routes. You know, he's sort of that size where he's a little big to be a wide receiver, but maybe too small to be a tight end. Yeah. But, you know, if you've got the right offense and you've got the right player, which they definitely had the right player. And for him, they definitely had a good quarterback thrown to him. And he was in an offense where he could thrive. You know, when I was there with Pat Kelly, we were running more of a run-pass option type thing with Donnie McPherson and then Todd Philcox. So we were blocking out on the perimeter sometimes more than the interior, but we still blocked more than we, you know, had pass receptions or played as receivers. But we still all had, you know, a good amount of catches and yards and touchdowns. I think when I was a senior, I think I had maybe 25 catches for maybe 400 and some yards, 5 touchdowns. So at that time at Syracuse, that's pretty good for a tight end because as I came in, when they had Marty Chalk and a couple of other guys, they would have never caught 25 receptions in a season. This guy Gadsden, the position they have him in, sometimes in the slot as a slot receiver even, you know, it was the perfect offense for him. I love the fact that he's caught as many balls as he had. And as I said, I don't think anybody's going to break his records for a long time. And I think he deserves it. He seems to be a real humble young man. I haven't met him in person, but just me looking at him on the field as he's playing and giving the credit to his quarterback and all of his players, you know, I respect that. And I wish him all the luck in the world in the NFL.
Yeah, and Pat, like you said, I mean, back when you played, unheard of, back in 1988 for a tight end to have almost 30 receptions, over 400 yards, multiple touchdowns. You know, like you said, there wasn't an emphasis on the tight end as much right back then. And there's been times throughout history, there's teams that won't utilize the tight end, right? They'll just utilize them for blocking and whatnot, but not so much to be anything more than an extension of the offensive line, which is still great in and of itself. But to go back to the 80s and to say, you know, that you caught almost 30 balls in a season, had over 400 yards, had multiple times that you were in the end zone, just what life was like in the 80s for a tight end and how atypical that was.
Well, you know, as I said, it was more blocking than catching passes. Yeah. I wish that we would have had this offense that they have now combined with the offense that we had. You know, the run-pass option, there wasn't very many teams doing it when we were out there in 1987, the undefeated team. 1988, we still go 10-2, which is almost what their record would have been had they not had the bowl game. So I'm proud of what they're doing up there, man. The offense has been great for the players that they've had. I like the kid Pena from New Jersey too.
Yeah.
They got a lot of weapons, man. Gill, the other wide receiver, he was great in the bowl game too. So I just enjoy watching them, man, and seeing their maturity and growth as they play and go throughout the years until they become seniors if they're still there.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what they'll be like in their final years of Syracuse football.
Yeah, and Pat, like you said, you made mention of the fact that Arande Gadsden II is not your typical tight end. I mean, he's a wide receiver, right? He was moved into this under Dino's old offense and trying to do certain things to utilize him as the asset that he is. But on other teams, he might be on the outside, going out there and using his height and whatnot. Do you like the way that Syracuse kind of put this together and made a wide receiver into a tight end? Do you think it's something that can help him with the NFL? I mean, obviously you want to win games, and you got guys, you mentioned Trevor Pena and obviously Jackson Meeks this season and some other guys like Umari Hatcher that made this a really electric offense and arguably the best receiving core they've had in a long time. Do you like that they took a wide receiver in Arande, a tall wide receiver, and instead of making him a traditional wide receiver, that they put him in this tight end kind of hybrid thing? Do you think it was the right decision, and do you think it can help him in the NFL?
Oh, I definitely think it was the right decision. Like I said, this guy can play out in the slot, and that causes a linebacker to have to play him. So in most cases, if he's inside, there's going to be an outside linebacker that probably has to play him in coverage. And in other times, he may be covered by a DB, but in most cases, he may be bigger than the DB. And because he runs good routes, he's still finding a way to get open. I think that if he goes to a team that will utilize him the same way in which Syracuse has, he'll have a great career in the NFL. I don't see him being a tight end unless they beef him up a little bit.
Yeah.
But there are tight ends in the league now, just like there's smaller linebackers because they want them to run from one side of the field to the other to be able to run running backs down and play running backs out of the backfield. They also now have tight ends who aren't as big as we were back then because they want them to be athletic. And not to say we weren't athletic. When we were there, Pat Kelly and I think for my pro day, I ran a 4.58 at 260 pounds. So it's what you put into it. This kid looks like he's going to put everything, that he has into it. He's got a father that was a pro in the league also, same name. And so, he's got a lot of people in his corner to guide him the way that he needs to be guided.
Yeah, and you mentioned Trevor Pena, and I want to stick on this for a second. Pat Davis, Syracuse Orange tight end alum on all things Orange following the 2024-25 season here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Pat, Trevor, I mean, this is a guy who, for multiple seasons, talented guy that I've liked, and he would get hurt, and he'd get hurt again. And he went through injuries, and he just went through tough times, adversity, things out of his control. And this season we saw him healthy. This season we finally saw him out there, what a full season can be. And my buddy Isaac Elford, who does Tortora and Elford with me, pregame and postgame about Syracuse football, year in and year out, him and I have talked about Trevor, and he said in the spring game, he's like, McCord was going to him a lot. Like, McCord kept going to him, and if the spring game is any indicator of, who he likes or who he has a connection with, Trevor's going to get involved. And some people, I think, thought Trevor, he's just going to return kicks, just going to return punts. They're not going to use him in the offense. This guy was trusted so much by Kyle McCord. It didn't matter what down it was. And you could tell. Trevor goes in motion, Kyle drops back, and he had already let the ball go before Trevor beat his guy because he believed that Trevor was going to do it. He had a fantastic season. He did an incredible job. We finally got to see what a full season would look like with him, like I said. But I'm not surprised that he was successful because I believed in him back then. I'm just happy to see it finally happen. You mentioned Trevor. What do you think he brings to the offense with Fran Brown saying he's coming back and he's going to be one of the leaders.
Oh man, I'm more than happy he's coming back. I like the back shoulder throws that they do to him a lot because they know each other so well. He and Kyle were doing a really good job of that in the bowl game. Also, you got a guy who can return punts and kickoffs as well.
Yeah.
The kid is very active. He's got another gear. You know, I watched him in the bowl game, and when he gave the one kid the head fake, and then that burst the speed, and then he's 30, 40 yards down the field before you even get a chance to possibly tackle him. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. I'm glad he stayed. I think if he stays healthy, he can only up his contract value going into the NFL. But he's definitely going to be a guy that plays on Sunday too.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that he's shown that. I think he's proven that. I love hearing you say that and echo the sentiments of being an NFL guy and your belief that he's going to make it there, because I believe that as well. So when we look back on this season as a whole, Pat, offense, defense, special teams, we know that special teams struggled. We know that protecting punters, protecting kickers is something that they're going to have to work on. But when you look at this season, by and large, overall, what can you say to the effect of this Syracuse Orange season? What did it do for you as an alum, and just how you reflect on a 10-3 start for Fran Brown as a head coach?
Well, let me just say something about the special teams. The special teams, yeah, they were a little suspect at times. I think, like I said, with Pena on the receiving end of it, they were very good in that aspect. We had two good kickers when I was there, Tim Vessling and Don McCauley. So, that was almost like points in the bag if we were anywhere near their area.
Yeah.
As far as the season, man, I'm happy with 10-3. I love it. There was a couple games that were close where they probably could have had a better record and had a couple more wins under their belt. I haven't met Coach Brown yet, but I have watched his interviews, and I can see what he's aiming for. As a fellow New Jersey guy, I'm also proud of him, not only as a black coach doing well on the college level and being a first-year coach and being able to do what he's doing with the program and bringing a culture that I think they had lost when Dino Babers was there. I'm happy to see them being successful in all phases of the game, and I'm looking forward to this next season. It's going to be a little crazy with this NIL thing. I think they have to make some adjustments to this NIL thing. Yeah. It's all over the place with people, in the portal, out of the portal. That part is a little crazy. I think some of these kids need to make sure that whatever money that they're handling, they either have somebody handling it or have somebody advising them as to how they spend their money. It's all good with the jewelry and all the other things that you may buy with the money that you're making.
Yeah.
But, make sure you take care of your family and make sure you take care of yourself, and don't worry about those people that didn't take care of you. And that's what you're going to find too now that you have this situation. You're going to have some people coming out of the woodworks that weren't really there for you back when you needed them. But, just be wise with your money and know that everything is taxed. Don't be at the end of the season and don't have enough money to pay your taxes. So, I think season-wise and football-wise, Syracuse is definitely back on track. I'm proud to see them play, especially even the 10-3 record. I'm proud of what Fran Brown and his coaches have done there, and I'm looking forward to being in the stadium as much as I was, before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it. I mean, you talked about the NIL, you talked about these different things and parameters and whatnot. Let's stick with that for a second here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call. We're here with Pat Davis, Syracuse tight end alum, speaking on all things Orange following the 2024-25 season. Name, image, and likeness transfer portal. They were not supposed to be used together. They were supposed to be mutually exclusive, but they're not. And anybody that saw this and thought that they weren't going to be used together would imply that the NCAA was going to police everyone, which we know that doesn't happen. They police who they want to police. And in the world of transfer portal, you're supposed to get into the portal, make that decision, go and look at schools. No money, no promises, no cars, no anything. Go look at the school, see where you want to go. You're re-recruiting yourself. You get recruited, you make a decision, you sign with the school, you're on campus, all said and done. Now you do NIL. Well, the opposite is happening. It's now become college free agency. NIL, people are calling players from other schools and saying, hey, you're not in the portal, but if you get in the portal, I'll give you 20 grand. If you get in the portal, I'll give you 100 grand. If you get in the portal, I'll give you $1 million. If you get in the portal, I'll give you $6 million. I know coaches all across this country, and I've spoken with ADs and commissioners, and I have spoken with leaders across the country in college football that have told me, I got people calling my team while we're preparing for a game, saying, if you get in the portal, I'm going to give you money. What are your thoughts on where we are at right now, and any thought on what we can do to put a fence around this thing, in the reality that the transfer portal not only is open right now so people can leave their bowl team, leave their college football playoff team. I mean, do you like the windows of the transfer portal and when they're open, right after spring ball and right after the regular season, not after the postseason? So I don't want to load the question, but to let people know, at the end of the regular season, the portal opens. At the end of spring game and springtime, spring practice, the portal opens. Do you like those times, or would you like to see them change? And then secondly, your thoughts on name, image, and likeness essentially becoming calling up players, tampering all over the country, and saying, if you get in the portal, we're going to pay you money, instead of waiting for someone to go in the portal.
Yeah, that's a lot. If it is happening the way you're saying, there should be no way that somebody should be able to contact these players during the season. They should at least have to wait until after the season is over to be in contact with any of these student athletes. I think it's dirty to try to talk to a player while he's on another team and basically happy. Some of these kids coming out of high school now, it's all about the NILs, not where they would have a better career. When I came out, that option wasn't out there, the NIL contracts. And so you tried to go to a school that was a better fit for you as a student athlete. Now with this NIL deal, people are going to schools just for the money, with no intent on having a good education there, or getting good education there, or having a great career there, because now you have this NIL thing where you can go into every season and literally switch to another team that once again you feel may be a better fit for you financially. And I think it's a benefit. I'm happy for the kids who have grown up in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, or have been one of 6, 7, 8 siblings, and now you want to provide for your family, and you want to do that, in a manner that is appropriate. Then I'm happy for those types of players. But I don't think you should be able to move in this portal every year. There has to be a number of years that you have to stay there. There was times where people went to Syracuse or any other school and weren't happy, either because they weren't playing, they weren't getting enough time, the team wasn't winning, whatever that circumstance was. They still couldn't just get up and leave. Now these kids, if anything goes wrong, they can make a phone call, or somebody can make a phone call to them and just, give them some other options, especially financial options. It's so bad, like you said, that, you're scared to have a coach say something to your player after the game. You go over and wish the guy a good game, but, the guy could be very well recruiting your player to come to his university. And as you said, there are schools that they watch and schools that they don't. And so, it's just definitely not the same from somebody that played on an undefeated team. If NIL was around during those days, we would have had millions, some of us, especially a guy down in McPherson, a hometown guy like Rob Drummond or Harold Johnston. That was upstate New York, too. A lot of people don't realize that this guy was only recruited by 2 schools or 3 schools when he came out. and he ends up being a fullback with the Dallas Cowboys that'll probably be a Hall of Fame player. Guys like Marcus Paul. Oh man, I could keep going on. Michael Owens. There's a whole list of people that could have been getting a whole lot of money if it was NIL at that time. And we didn't always have the best teams we played on. Didn't always have the best situations, but we gutted it out.
Yeah.
And when we got there, they were 5-6. By the time we left, we had the best record in 2 years in the country, and that was compared to Alabama, Oklahoma, Nebraska, any of those things. We had a 11-1-1 season. My junior year, my senior year, we go 10-2, playing the Hall of Fame Bowl. We knock off LSU, because back then, those guys from the North still thought that the line couldn't be crossed, and so we beat them 23-10 and gave them a newfound respect for Big East football.
Yeah, 21-3-1 in that span, and the tie was in a Hall of Fame bowl, in the situation where you could tie in a bowl game, which was absolutely insane, and give both teams a trophy, which is crazy because Syracuse commanded it, and as Rob Drummond told me years ago, they kicked LSU kicked a field goal to save face. So, you look back on that, and that was Syracuse back in the 80s. So Syracuse is at that point, independent, and being an independent school going up against the SEC. So a lot to be said about that time period and the work that y'all did back then. I know you said you haven't met Fran Brown in person, but you're from Jersey. He's from Jersey. What does it mean to you that he, kind of talks the way that he goes about things? I mean, God is always first. And I can tell you that because him and I have a personal and professional relationship, and we talk about God on the air, off the air. So God is first, talks about family. He said, the people he grew up around in New Jersey, that was the scariest thing he's going to see. Like, there's nothing scary about going up against a coach or another team and this and that. Like, he saw what was scary growing up as a kid in certain neighborhoods and whatnot. So when he makes mention about God and his upbringing in Jersey and the neighborhood, and then he goes and gets kids from those neighborhoods and puts them on this team, being a fellow New Jersey guy and a man of faith, what does it mean to you that he not only talks about where he came from and his faith, but that he goes and gets kids from that area and says, I'm going to help them out too?
Oh, yeah. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that, we're both Jersey guys. We're both from tough areas. I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. He's from Camden, New Jersey. So even on that level, just that level alone, we both know some of the things that we've seen and some of the things that we've gone through and some of the things that we've seen our friends and families go through. So that part I respected right from the beginning, because if you live in Trenton, you live in Camden, you're probably going to run across a few tough neighborhoods here and there. And if you just stay moving forward, then that's the best thing you could possibly do. I knew at least him being from Camden wasn't going to be a situation where he was going to be afraid to go in some of the more tougher neighborhoods to go get a player. That's the first thing I knew, is that I didn't have to worry about him not going into a certain neighborhood, being from Camden, New Jersey, and getting us some of these 3 and some of these 2-star players that fit into the program, and then you can end up turning them into 3 and 4-star players. So I was happy about that. I like the thing about him being with God and family. I like him bringing his son along the ride, because that's going to be some things that his son will remember forever, as long as he lives. Him being around the players and experiencing some of the things that they're going through. And if he becomes an athlete himself, he already has a jump on all of the things that he's seeing now as a young kid. So I love that part of him being family and God. And I think that, he's been surrounded by good people, coaching at Georgia. I believe he coached at Temple. I'm not sure. I know one guy here was telling me that he recruited his son when he was at another school. But he's been in different programs where he's had good guidance too, and then waited for his opportunity to go out on his own, and had the confidence to know that he could be a good coach as well. And, we're 100% behind him, man. Nothing against Dino Babers, but, I really didn't care for the way he was going about things. And, God bless him. I hope he's moved on to something that was better for him. But this guy is definitely a brighter spot now that we have a new coach and a new culture. You can't leave the players that made the program behind. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's not like we want to come in there and talk to the team every day or give them the speech before they go out on the field. But it's still nice to be around the players. We respect them as young guys coming up, and we would hope that they respect us as older players that went through everything they're going through and even more to become as good as we were when we left Syracuse University.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, right? You can't forget your past if you plan on building a strong present into a good future. You can't forget where you came from, and there's so many of you. And when I set out and said, I want to have the Syracuse alumni on the show, and I'll reach out to one and reach out to another, and then it turns into 10 and 20 and 30 and 50 and so on and so forth. When I heard during COVID, some of you guys say, like, we don't have a voice on the Hill, and you're our voice. We come here, you give us an avenue. This show is a place for us to speak our mind. It's a place for us to still feel connected. I never knew it was going to be that, but I've made it my mission over the years here to do everything in my power to make sure the alumni are heard. And if they're not going to listen, then, well, we're going to put it out to the world. And if the Hill don't want to listen, we're going to make sure everybody else does. Fran listens. And when I was there at the introductory press conference, I was sitting right there in front of him, and I said, it was the one question I said I have to ask. And that question was, Fran, you got alumni here in the room. You got alumni watching. What do you want to say to them? What do you want them to know? And he said, I want y'all to be around. I want your presence. And he joked and he said, he's like, I want your money too. I want you to donate. But he said, I want your presence. I want you around. I want you to be here. And if you come to practice, you can come in my office. You could talk to me. If you don't come around, then I don't want to hear nothing. And, people took that and have continued to take what he said about the alumni. But I was sitting there. I knew Rob Drummond was in the room. I knew Bruce Williams was in the room. I knew that, guys like yourself are probably going to watch this thing live or on demand and whatnot. And I wanted to look him in the eye and say, like, what are we going to do about this? Because I've been fighting like heck to get these guys back in the building that they built, and nobody wanted to let them in. The information department didn't want to let them in. The athletic department didn't want to let them in. The coach didn't want to let them in. I want these guys in the building. And without Fran, it would be another coaching situation where they don't want to let you in. It never made sense to me. It was never right to me. And that's why I'm happy that Fran and I are speaking a similar language when it comes to faith, when it comes to recruiting kids in the community, when it comes to making sure you take care of your alumni. So that all goes into a pot, and we do a thing on the show called The Ingredients to Success. We do it every single Tuesday here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, and it's brought to you by Avicolli's. Fantastic restaurant, now open 7 days a week. They decided to open up on Mondays here, and so now you got them 7 days a week, lunch, dinner, and drinks. As always, drink responsibly on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. You can also order online, very easy, by going to myavicollis.com. You can go to wakeupcalldt.com and click on the Avicollis logo, and that'll bring you straight to your opportunity to order online on myavicollis.com. And for takeout, delivery, and catering, you can call 315-622-5100. So, with that being said, my ingredients to success topic today is Syracuse Orange football moving forward. Mr. Davis, I would love to pass the baton to you and ask you to give us the ingredients to success on what you think would make a successful present and future for Syracuse football. What ingredients do they need?
Wow, that's a tough question. I would definitely have to say that a lot of the things that they are doing at this point right now have definitely improved the culture. I think the first thing, like we spoke of, is that you definitely have to keep the former players involved. I think he's done that. Yeah. I think that if there's any way that we as players can potentially help them in recruiting, whether it be we see a player that we think has the potential to be a Syracuse guy, that we pass that on. I know I've done that in the past. I've had calls with different coaches where I thought a player was good enough to be a Division I guy and be a person that could help Syracuse University out. I've made phone calls. I think as former players, when we go to a high school game, it shouldn't be just as a fan. We should be looking for somebody that we think might be able to fit into the program. So I would think that all of the alumni would be their job, if they're at even something casual as a casual football game, to see if there's any talent out there. I also think that, Fran has done a good thing about at least having it family. Everything seems to be family. I think that we were like that because we all still keep in touch with each other even now. We've got a chat that we all talk on. We're missing a few people. We love to hear from Rob Moore. I'm putting that out there, Rob. But we're very proud of him. We don't hear from him as much as we like to. There's some other players that we like to get back into the fold. I would say that if Fran is willing, which I know he is, to go into some of these neighborhoods and recruit some of these guys that are maybe 2-star, maybe 3-star players, but that he can mold into 4- and 5-star players, I think that would be a help also. So many times in the past, we were going after 3- and 4-star players, and then when we didn't get them, or we weren't successful in recruiting them, there was nobody to fall back on. All of a sudden, then you were just missing players, And so I think we have to go and we have to find some players that may not necessarily be 3- or 4- or 5-star players now, but you see the potential in them for them to be that when they leave Syracuse University. I want to mention this one thing, too, about the tie in the Sugar Bowl against Auburn. The thing that was even more upsetting than there was no overtime at that time was the fact that not only did they tie us, but the biggest problem we had with all of that is we were ranked 4th in the country at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's what made it a little bit even more, sinister. I don't know which word I want to use. But the fact that Pat Dye at the time tried to make an excuse by saying he didn't feel like his team should have lost the game because they played just as hard as we did. We didn't have a lot of points that game, and it was only 16 points, but we dominated them most of the game. They had a guy named Andre Bruce playing at the time who ended up being a first-round pick for the Raiders, and he was nullified. Between the tight ends that we had and between some of the other players, he did not play as well against Syracuse University. We've had that kind of thing over the SEC teams, which I respect a lot, because I think the SEC is probably maybe a little ahead of the ACC, but one of arguably the best conferences in the country. I mean, you just got a whole bunch of teams that play good football in the SEC. The ACC is getting better and better every year. I'm happy that Syracuse is a part of that now. And so I think they have all of the ingredients to start out. If they can keep some players, that's on that bubble, whether they want to go into the NFL or come back and have another year like Pena, that can only help too, because that gives us, the camaraderie that we had from the year before. And then we go into a season with a lot of players that you're already familiar with and that are already familiar with the program. So that can only help too, man. And like you said before, the main ingredient is God, family, and football. And that's what Dick McPherson used to tell us when he was coaching us. It was God, family, and football.
Yeah, and that's in that order. And so, looking at the importance of that, I love that. I love those ingredients to success. Proudly presented by Avicolli's, coming to you from Pat Davis on what Syracuse can do to take this current success and make it sustained success as they move forward here in their upcoming history here. And obviously, football never sleeps. People think the season's over. It's not. Recruiting is happening. Transfer portal is happening. A lot of different things are going on. So excited to see what Syracuse is going to do as they step forward here, and definitely appreciate the advice coming from Pat Davis in this edition of the Ingredients to Success, proudly presented by Avicolli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road. And you can find them open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. And as always, drink responsibly. Pat, before I let you go, I want to do some rapid fire. We've done this before. No preparation. I don't know what he's going to ask me. He doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. Can be football. Doesn't have to be football. What do you got for me today? First question.
First question. What do you think about the program in your own words? Being a little kid and watching how the program was at that time, and how it's evolved into what it is now. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that, I was a Coach P kid. So, I was spoiled. I love being around Coach P. And I finally got to interview him when he was at UConn. And he looked at me. I asked him if I could do an interview with him, and he stared at me in the hallway. And something inside of me wanted to apologize for something I didn't do, because just the way he looked at me, I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, if he was a dad, you walk in the room and you just drop the stick, be like, sorry, Dad, I did something outside, I was stupid, didn't mean it. But no, I mean, I grew up a Coach P kid, and I grew up with hard-nosed, tough guys. I mean, I grew up watching when you were playing. I was little, and seeing you and just, I mean, seeing the team really, I think for me, the most memorable part as I was growing up, because I was like 3 years old back in '88. So when I really, really got into it was probably like mid 90s. And when I was remembering different things, and Donovan McNabb was my favorite player, and I got to meet Donovan. And the really cool story with Donovan is he was working at Tully's as a host, and he was on Erie Boulevard. And apparently nobody knew who he was. So none of the workers, nothing, nobody bothered him. And my mom and I were sitting all the way in the back with my dad, and I said to my mom, I go, I think that's Donovan McNabb. And she goes, I think you're right. And I was like, yeah, I think that's Donovan. And he was playing basketball and football at the time. And my dad's like, y'all are crazy. There's no way that that's Donovan McNabb. So we went to leave, and my mom's like, I'm going to ask. And my dad's like, I'm going to get in the car. You guys are both ridiculous. So he leaves, and my mom goes to Donovan. She goes like this. She's like, come here. She said, are you Donovan McNabb? He looked around, and he put his finger out to his face, shh, don't tell anybody. And she was like, oh my goodness, I love you. My son loves you. We love to get an autograph. He took a coaster at Tully's, and he signed the back of the coaster. And I remember being upset because I'm a basketball player. I wanted him to sign number 25 for basketball. He signed number 5 quarterback. Before we left, I will never forget this. He bent down to my mom and I. He went like this, and he whispered in our ears at the same time. He said, I know I'm not anything right now, but just watch. I might be somebody someday. We walked out. There was a line of people because apparently we outed that it was him, and my mom mouthed that she was sorry.
Wow.
Right here in my studio, right off my shoulder. So, when you ask me about Syracuse, you talk about God, you talk about family, you talk about football, you talk about morals, you talk about building young men. It's been a long time since I felt like what I felt like as a kid. And I feel like Fran is helping me get to that place where I feel like Syracuse, my city, and Syracuse, my football team, are starting to connect again. I think the university forgot about the city, unless they needed money. And I think that to have a coach come in who came from nothing, a coach who was counted out, a coach who maybe wasn't given the opportunities other people was given, for him to be that type of person that has been through what he's been through and have faith, that's my city. We're blue collar. We're not white collar. We're blue collar. And we work hard. We earn it. We go through hell. We don't get credit. We don't get the high rankings and the high this and high that. I built my business with 27 cents in my pocket and $103 in my bank account. I was living with my grandmother, taking care of her so she didn't have to go to a nursing home. I know what it's like to build something and believe in something when you're getting laughed at, neglected, forgotten. And when you do build it, to not get credit for it, to have people try to steal from it, they discredit it, and at the same time they're trying to take credit for it, and how you can do both of those things at the same time is crazy. So I think having a coach and having a city and putting that together and having Fran come in here, I am starting to have that feeling. It's not completely there, it's coming there, but I'm starting to have that feeling like I had when I was a kid, where like you feel it in your chest. And you walk in there like, yeah, we're Syracuse. And you put that block S on, and I get on a plane and people go, you got a good coach. You got a good thing you're building. You got good character guys. Those guys in the community, they're nice to my daughter. They're nice to, the guy at Wegmans that's at the register and whatnot. I feel like we're getting to a place, and it's not that there wasn't good kids here, but there was a disconnect between what I knew Syracuse football to be and what it became. And I think that Fran is building this thing where I can look at him, and I do, and shake hands with him and tell him, like, you're not building this thing by yourself. This is my city. So if you go out here and you do what you say you're going to do and you work your butt off, I'm going to do my thing, and you and I are going to come together, and we're going to make something cool. And we're going to make something respectable. We're going to make something we can put in front of God. We're going to make something we can sell. We're going to make something that people can see and say, win, lose, or draw, they did it the right way. They did it with good people. They did it with morals. They did it with values. They did it with God. They did it so that they can sleep at night. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but the kid in me feels like I might be getting my team back, and I can appreciate that.
Okay.
So if that makes any sense. So
that makes a whole lot of sense.
My question back to you is, as an alum, what is it about this era of Syracuse football that makes you want to come back to the Dome?
I never not wanted to come back to the Dome. I have always been one of the players. There was a disconnect, I'm going to say, from the time that I got drafted by the Chargers in '89, probably until I came back to New Jersey in, I believe, 1992. After the World League, I was in the World League for a year, which turned into NFL Europe. I played with the London Monarchs, and we had won the championship of that league in 1991. I tore my Achilles tendon shortly after that playing basketball, which I was in Minnesota at the time, but eventually brought me back to New Jersey in '92. And so after '92, I was back in the program. And I mean, as far as going to the games, as far as watching them on TV, I don't think I've ever stopped watching them on TV, but there was a disconnect when I was actually trying to make the league and stay in the league, and I was traveling back and forth. I lost track of a lot of people's careers. And in fact, I didn't find out how successful some of the players that I had played with had actually become. I mean, there were, players that naturally I would have known, ended up doing well, Darryl Johnston, Rob Moore, guys like that. I didn't know Paul Fraze had such a great career. Yeah. I knew about Donnie's career after Syracuse. I didn't know Rob's career. I knew Rob Drummond had gotten, drafted by the Eagles, but didn't know how well he had played up in Canada and how well he had done up there. Maybe the equivalent of 5 Super Bowl rings up there with 5 Grey Cups. I mean, that is just phenomenal. I think Rob Drummond, let me say this too on camera, has not gotten the recognition he should be getting as one of the best running backs in Syracuse University's history. I also want to put that out for Joe Morris. I think Joe Morris is, and I don't know how he could be underrated, but I think he's one of the most underrated players that played at Syracuse also. Guys like Pat Kelly even had a great career afterwards. Denver Broncos, maybe 6 or 7 years. I think he had a short stint with the Jets, Paul Fraze. So once I got back into Syracuse in 1992, there was no stopping me. The only thing that stopped me was the pandemic. And now that there is fans back in the stands, I'm there as much as I can be. So I've always had my son up there, which is always a reason to go back and visit too. But I have always been behind their sports, and there was never really a disconnect other than those years from 84. We're not 84. We came out in 87. I'm going to say maybe 89 to 90, 92. And then after that, I was back. And as you can see, I'm back full blown. Still got the hardware on there. I don't have a lot of gold chains to put on my neck, but I still carry that one around. So that's the undefeated ring, 87, and proud of it, man. Proud of it.
Yeah, and what is your son doing up in Syracuse?
My son is actually, and I don't want this to turn into an advertisement too. My son, unfortunately, has ALS, so he is a retired Marine. I don't know if you remember the story that was written a long time ago about the young man who had gotten shot in Afghanistan. But that was my son, Kyle Williams. And, unfortunately now he's in a wheelchair, but we are blessed because we still have him. He's had ALS probably for 13 years or more. And I think if anybody knows anything about Lou Gehrig's disease, you know that it's a very crippling and a very horrifying disease. My neighbor passed away from it within 2 years of finding out that he had it. And as you know, it is also something that my son shares, unfortunately, with Tim Green, who was probably one of the best defensive linemen to come out of Syracuse.
Yeah, and with one of my best friends and my brother, Jimmer Sikowski, who is the owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, who also has it. So I very much know it because I have been with Jimmer throughout pretty much the entire process. And, I give my best to your son. 13 years. Jimmer's, I think, in year 4 since he got diagnosed, which is incredible because, like you said, sometimes people find out and it's a year or two. How is Kyle doing? How is everything going in his world? And did he do like certain things? 'Cause I know going through the process, some people they'll record different words, record sentences, record things that they can hit. I know that I think it was Stephen Hawking that his eyes could do different things with the words. I know Jimmer can still hold my hand with his left hand, and he can pick up his thumb and put that on. He's gotten really good at mouthing different words, and he'll smack his lips together when he wants to talk, and then he'll mouth something to you. So him and I are having full-blown conversation. Is there something that your son does or prepared to do to kind of keep that conversation with you?
Well, he still has conversation. He can have brief conversations without getting breathy. Yeah. He is still able to at least move his hands to be able to control his wheelchair. He doesn't walk anymore. He can't walk on his own anymore. He's in a wheelchair. But as far as everything that could be possibly happening to him, my neighbor lost use of his arms, and then the next thing was that he was bedridden, and then of course the next thing was that he passed. And so for my son to still be breathing and to still be able to enjoy some of the things that he enjoys, watching television or some of the things that they do around the house with and for him, it's a blessing in itself, man. So I've got no complaints. Originally when we found out that he had it, it was a shock to us. But a lot of people don't know that ALS can also be caused by trauma. And, where else would you get more trauma from than if you're a soldier in Afghanistan? So, we still don't hold anything. These are times where you question your faith more than anything, when somebody you love or you yourself runs across something that you don't think you can handle. He never gives you more than you can handle. So, shout out to his mom, Lisa Williams, and his stepfather, which, we also say that that's his his other dad or his dad too. He calls us both dads. So that was always a good situation in itself. But shout out to Lamar Williams too, Isaiah and Nia and Keenan. They've all been great people. Those are his other siblings. And so they've all helped in to help him still have the lifestyle that he's able to afford just by having a good support team.
Well, I'm happy that you shared that, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you keeping your faith through all this, because, you know, a lot of people turn on God when things happen, but we all hit adversity. And the thing that humbles me every time is when I'm sitting here complaining about stuff, and like I was yesterday, wasting a whole bunch of time complaining about a whole bunch of nothing. And if you just think about the fact when people say, well, why did God let this happen to me? It's like God's son, Jesus, got beaten, stoned, spit on, all these words thrown at him, carried a cross, crown of thorns, nailed to that cross, left in the heat to bake in the sun, and died, was stabbed afterward. So none of us are going through that. But when people say, why did this happen to me? In my case, Pat, it was, why did my grandfathers die when I was 6? It was the most angry I'd ever been at God. I never left God, but I was angry. And I thought, I'm 6 years old, and both of my grandfathers died in 92, same year. I look back at that and how upset I was. And if you really think about it, if God allowed his son to go through all that pain, and he allowed that to happen knowing that something good could come from it, what are we complaining about? Not that we want the pain, not that we want the suffering, but so many people turn from God when disaster strikes instead of looking at God and saying, God in man, Jesus Christ himself, went through more pain than any of us will ever endure. And he did it for us. And God allowed that to happen. So when people say, how could God allow this, and this person has cancer, and this person has ALS, and this person got hit by a bus, and this person's baby passed away, how does this happen? It's not that God hates us. It's not that God is punishing us. It's not that God doesn't care about us. It's that if we follow God and we truly believe in God, we have to understand that in every single life, every person in some way, shape, or form suffers. And it's the faith that comes from that suffering that helps us get back home. And not that any of us want to suffer, but it's the reality of the fact that if Jesus Christ suffered, why are we surprised when certain things happen to us? Not that we want them to happen, but instead of turning away from God, I wish we would just look at Jesus' life and say, if he can do it, we can do it. And your son sounds like he's got a great support system. He's got love. He gave service to our country. God bless him for that. And he's continued to go on and go forward. He's obviously made you proud. So as much as we never want to have these stories happen, if Jesus can do it, we can do it. And I just hope that people can find peace in knowing that God doesn't say we won't suffer. He just says he'll hold our hand through the whole process.
No doubt. No doubt.
So, I mean, my last question I have ready for you, but you get to ask me first. So what's your last question for me?
What do you think about people from the past? And I don't say this just for me, but, you know, we were full blown behind this NIL thing. We thought for years that athletes should have been getting some type of compensation for what we were doing. We were bringing millions to the university, and not only fans coming into the stadiums and being in the stands, but also money from the television, being on television. And when you're on an undefeated team, you know, you're the game of the week, not just you know, the morning game or the afternoon game. You know, you're that 4 o'clock game, you're that night game where they're trying to have more viewers on the TV. I think, and not just speaking for myself, of course, I think there should be a way, because of all the money that is involved now, in a way for them to compensate players from the past. And I know we can't go back and give money to every player that ever played college football, but I think if you made some kind of team, like if you were all East, if you were all East Coast athletic conference, if you were All-American. There should be some kind of compensation for players that were the best at what they did at that time. And so that would be my question to you. What are your thoughts about giving some funds back to the people who were not able to make that type of money back then?
I think that, I mean, obviously there's thousands upon thousands, and you said, you can make parameters and say, well, what about, those that won awards? What about those that, made certain teams and stood out in certain ways? So I get the point that you're making in that respect. I think what they can do and what they should do, and Rob and I have talked about this with the NFL, is collegiately or NFL, I mean professionally or college-wise, I think that there should be some type of retirement benefit or aid to athletes. And if you can't necessarily, because it's going to be a murky water of, okay, Peyton Manning makes millions upon millions of dollars. He won a bunch of awards. Do we give Peyton Manning more money, or is the guy that's hurting right now Ryan Leaf more than it's Peyton Manning? So I think, the way that you kind of compensate or show respect and appreciation for the sacrifices of student athletes and professional athletes is that you have some type of retirement fund and retirement plan, because brain injury, CTE, I know people that have CTE. I am extremely frustrated and saddened by the pain that they carry. So I think that, especially in the world of football, there needs to be a kind of universal pool, some type of health care, some type of compensation, some type of, hey, you gave your blood, sweat, and tears to us. You put your lives on the line. You put your bodies on the line. You made us a ton of money. So, if you have an ailment that's connected back to your playing days, there's going to be a fund for that. And the NFL has got billions, maybe trillions of dollars. And collegiate athletics, we know, is a $1 billion industry. So to me, if we can find a way to have at least a health care fund of maybe we don't give you money to go do whatever you want with, but if you need a surgery, if you've gone through something, if you have a reoccurring problem, let's do what we can to take care of our athletes after they play and make sure that we have some type of resources for them, so they're not stuck with, trying to find their own health care and find a job that they hate so that they can get good health care, or doing it themselves through, this healthcare system that's really confusing nowadays. I think that at the bare minimum, we can create a fund for athletes to help them with injuries that are connected back to their playing days, especially when it comes to brain injuries and CTE, because there needs to be more money put there. There needs to be more resources. And I am somebody who prays to God every single day that if anybody is going through a tough time, that they never have to worry about money, resources, or talent of the people helping them, that no one is put in a place of, yeah, we could have saved you, but you lived in this state, or you lived in this country, or you couldn't afford it. I don't want people to be in situations where their life could have been preserved, aided, and expanded, but they just didn't have the opportunity to resource. So I think if we can find a way to resource and fund our athletes post-playing, that would probably be a good thing to do.
Okay. Just wanted to hear your ideas on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's for the short amount of time that you play the sport,
right,
and the longevity of ailments that can come from it, nobody should have to suffer 70 years for a sport that they played for 10. So, right. I don't think people should have to suffer at all. So my question back to you, Pat, is what about your son? You mentioned Kyle and everything that he's been through, but I'm a firm believer that you never look at a person disease first. You look at who they are. And Jimmer, to me, I tell people this all the time, I don't see the chair. I don't see the change. I look at him, he gives me those same facial expressions. I know how he feels. I know his attitude. We talk about fate. Like, I know who Jimmer is, no matter what. And so to me, it doesn't, what he's going through, I want him to be okay, but I'm always going to see Jimmer. I'm not going to see ALS and then Jimmer. So what do you see in your son when you look him in the eye? What are you most proud of? And what has his legacy been for you?
Well, I think that we're most proud of the fact that beyond anything, he's got to be a tough guy, and in that I say, it takes a lot of courage to go through a disease like that, because when you have your faculties, it is like literally being trapped in your body. So I look at him and I think about how he was as a kid coming up, and how tough he thought he was, and how kids go through these different stages and different times in their personalities. Everything hasn't been roses with him. We've had some times where, because of the disease, it caused him to not reach out to us as much, not to keep in touch with us as much when he was more mobile. But once he got into this new phase where he had to once again depend on his family to help take care of him, I think that he realized again that the most important thing is family. And you need your support system at all times, even when you're not using them, whether it's to make a phone call, whether it's to have somebody show up. He doesn't have a choice now but to use his support system. So all of the people who were there in the beginning are still here. Some of the people who tapped in or said they were your friends or said they were your extra parents, your extra set of parents, are not around anymore. And so I'm glad that us, his father, his other father, his mother, his siblings are all still the ones that are the most important in his life. And he has other family that still really cares about him. I'm glad he's able to look back now and see that some of those people weren't really who he thought they were.
Yeah.
And that his support system that he has now has always been here in the first place. And his legacy for me will be, as we grow up and we get older, we think we're the toughest guy on the block. Nobody better mess with us. I have a lot of respect for him living with this disease. And now I can actually say to my son, you are one of the toughest people that I know.
I love
and
that.
I think that he's still here, man. 13 years later, we still get to talk about him and not in the past tense. I lost my uncle on Thanksgiving Day. Rest in peace, Charles Davis. I lost my other uncle a year ago in October. So my mom has lost her nephew and two brothers within 2 years. So, if you don't have any faith, man, this could be a lot worse for you. So we try to think about still being above ground ourselves and still being grateful that, I can come over here 2 doors away and put my hand around my mom and tell her how much I love her whenever I want to do that. So my legacy for my son is definitely his toughness, and I appreciate him. I want him to know that.
Well, shout out to your son, shout out to your mom, shout out to your loved ones that are up in heaven watching over you, some guardian angels. I'm sad for them passing away and you not having them physically here, but I know that the God that you know is real keeps them a lot closer than you may think. And I know they're always with us and they find ways to reach back out. And I appreciate that as always. And speaking of reaching back out, I always appreciate that you do it, Pat. I'm thankful that we got to do this here today. Wake Up Call ends at 11 o'clock. And when I wanted to have you on the show, I was like, I don't care how long I'm going to be on with Pat. It's worth it. So I appreciate you being here past noon with me. Appreciate everything that we got to talk about. And a shout out to your family, to your support system, to your mom, to your son, and to all the beautiful things that you have in your life. Thank you for being the faithful person that you are, the kind person that you are, the giving person that you are, Pat. And, I'm just happy that you're part of the family. Orange or not, you're part of my family.
No doubt. I appreciate it, my friend. Anytime you need me, I'll be here. And I want to say go Orange. And I want to thank Fran, Coach Brown, and all of his staff, man, for giving Syracuse football life again, man. And I'm rooting for basketball now. So Felicia and Adrian, let's get it. Go Orange.
I love that. Much appreciation. Big words coming to the coaches from Pat Davis, a proud alum of Syracuse and their Orange football program. Pat, as always, God bless, and I look forward to talking with you soon, and Happy New Year.
You too, my friend. Happy New Year.
Take care.
Peace. Yep.
See. That coming from Pat Davis one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break from inside of the Great Lakes Honda City studios here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll be back right after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Find your way over to GG Cards and Breaks Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. They are a fantastic place for you to go and find something really cool for your family members, for, you know, something that you got to get, you're getting a gift for work, whoever it may be. Honestly, when it comes to the world of sports cards and trading cards, it's just such a fun thing that keeps us all big kids. So if you've never collected cards before, today's a great day to start. And if you have collected before, well, a great place to continue that collection is by going to a place that truly makes you feel at home, makes you feel welcome and appreciated, and that is GG Cards and Breaks. They do an absolutely tremendous job with the product that they bring in, with the quality of that product that comes in, the variety of the product, and everything that they do to continue making that showroom floor look different for someone that comes in every week, every month. They're constantly putting new things inside of the displays, changing the display cases, bringing in boxes, bringing in packs, and they have everything you need to protect your cards as well. It is a one-stop shop to be a big kid no matter what your age is, and that is on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York at GG Cards and Breaks, with Disney Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, hockey, soccer, basketball, baseball, football, and more. Head there Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6 and Sundays from 10 to 5, and let them know that DT sent you their way. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we have had a tremendous show today. And I started the show off feeling in the back of my throat the just wonderfulness of not being 100% and being a little bit under the weather. I didn't realize it was going to affect the way that I talk, you know, kind of that soreness and that whatnot, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be hanging out with you. My voice got better over time. I feel more comfortable here this morning, so I thank God for his grace and his goodness with that. And I thank all of my incredible guests that were on the show today. Rob Long of Syracuse Orange Special Teams History, a punter for the wonderful Orange, and now with Uplifting Athletes, all the work that he does to help pay it forward to families that are going through tough times after he went through such a tough time in his life, and his family did as well. I thank God every single day that Rob is here with us, and I'm so grateful and happy for the work that he does, and I hope that everyone he helps and everyone in general that needs help out there gets the help that they need, and we have more stories of people that aren't done telling their stories. So God bless to all of them. Many thanks to Binghamton University and the Bearcats and Gene Marshall for giving me the opportunity to tell these stories. Big time shout out to head coach Kyle Borshoff, as well as student athlete Brevin Cassella for joining me from the wrestling team. And an awesome time, awesome conversation, a lot of fun, and a great look inside of the world of wrestling. And that conversation to me, if you know nothing about wrestling, that's worth going back and checking out that conversation. Just a wonderful time with two gentlemen there. And then Pat Davis, who just joined the show and gave us a bunch of conversation about faith and life and Syracuse football and Fran and coming from Jersey and speaking on his son and his mom and what he's grateful for. Just warms the heart and gives you a lot to be thankful for coming off that conversation. I'd be hard-pressed for anybody to hear what Pat had to say and not want to call up their loved ones right after the show today and tell them that you love them. So make sure you do that. Thank you to Pat for his time, Syracuse Orange tight end alum, giving some words to fellow tight end Rondé Gadsden II as he moves on to the NFL, and giving us words on how Syracuse football stays consistently good here and has success moving forward in the ingredients to success, presented by Avicolli's, coming from Mr. Pat Davis. So thank you for watching and listening to Wake Up Call inside of the wonderful Great Lakes Honda City Studios here on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And once the shows go live, they jump into the archives, and you're going to be able to check these shows out here with Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube, as well as other areas. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And a big time thanks to our incredible team of partners with the wonderful Brooklyn Pickle down in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Go and check them out. They're right by the Pinehurst golf courses that you know so very well, that are known worldwide in the golf sphere. So make sure you head out. If you're down in North Carolina in that Southern Pines area, make sure you go to Brooklyn Pickle and get the best sandwich that you're going to have. You talk about places now, Dan, things cost so much and they don't give you a lot of food. Well, Brooklyn Pickle's been giving you a ton of food for a very long time, and they keep doing it. I love the Brooklyn Pickle, and I love that they're down in North Carolina, because North Carolina has welcomed me and treated me like it was home to me over the last decade plus. So make sure you head out and see them in Southern Pines, North Carolina on 1788 Old Morganton Road for that Brooklyn Pickle. Many thanks to our partners here in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Servomation Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, Avicolli's, as well as Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Brian's Landing, and of course we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Dolphins Wednesdays during Dolphin time. And this Wednesday, we're going to have a sit-down with the president of Lemoyne College as she rejoins the show. Dr. Linda Lemura will be joining me on the heels of hiring their new leader of their athletic department, and that being Phil Brown, who's also been on here doing a bunch of exclusive and amazing extended content that you won't find anywhere else. So, a lot of great stuff coming up with Lemoyne. And when I talk about exclusive content, we were out there speaking with him on the heels of Phil being hired. And of course, giving you content that you're not going to find anywhere else, and definitely not to this degree of conversation. So you might get a couple quotes here and there, but we've had full-blown long conversations with the new leader, as well as we've had with the leadership overall coming from the president, and I'm happy that Linda and I will be able to bring you a special tomorrow for our Lemoyne coverage. You can find all of our content with Lemoyne by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Lemoyne playlist. You can also find the Dolphins by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com, and as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call. Find your Bobcats every single month in what we call the Bobcat Buzz, with men's and women's basketball, baseball, and men's and women's soccer. Joining us here, student athletes, coaches, and administration of the Bobcats. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can find the BSC Syracuse playlist there on our YouTube channel. You can also find the Bobcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every Tuesday, like today, during Bearcat Time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time worldwide, as we tell the stories of the Binghamton University Bearcats student athletes, coaches, and administration in ways that you won't find anywhere else in these extensive conversations across all of their sports programs. You could find our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course, find your Binghamton playlist. You can also find the Bearcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I appreciate you being here with us. Appreciate you tuning in. And Jerry said, great show. Have some honey and lemon. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Yeah, I can't stand when I have a sore throat because it wakes me up sometimes and bugs the heck out of me. And, of course, I speak for a living, so it's not fun. So be good to each other. Be safe. Thank you, Jerry, for caring about me. Thank you, Rob Long. Thank you, Kyle Borshoff, as well as Brevin Cassella, Pat Davis. Thank you to Avicolli for the ingredients to success. And thank you to you for tuning into the show. Please make sure, if you haven't already, to find us and follow us on social media. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. And for now, from the wonderful Great Lakes Honda City Studios, we appreciate you being here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Head to Great Lakes Honda City today on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard. Let them know that DT sent you. And as always, God bless. No stress.